What is up? Today we are going to be ranking the best strikers in mixed martial arts from the S tier all the way to the F tier. We're going to be ranking great strikers, average strikers, underrated strikers, garbage strikers as well. And guys, I'm going to tell you how I'm going to stack up against some of these fighters on the feet as well with my 2 years of rusty kickboxing, man. You know, we've been in a drought as far as UFC news goes. We've been in a drought as far as good fights go, and I figured it would be time to do a strikers video. I haven't done one of these in quite some time, and we're really going to get into the nitty-gritty. We're really going to get into the details. And that's why I have so many tiers. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I didn't forget how to count. I just 7, 8, 9. All right, we got 9 tiers, man. We got 9 tiers, okay? And we're just going to get to it, man. We're just going to get to it. Aljaimain Sterling. I'm going to put Aljo in the B- tier, okay? Now, here's the thing about Aljo. You know what? I'm putting him in the B tier, actually. So, former bantamweight, so we know he's got that lighter man skill. But I think most importantly, people forget, man, but Aljaimain Sterling outstruck Henry Cejudo in a title fight not too long ago. And you can sit there and say, well, no, Cejudo was outstriking him. Aljo was just out-grappling him. Dude, there was like 2 takedowns in the entire fight. Aljo won multiple rounds off of Cejudo in just the striking, and that has aged well. Aljaimain Sterling was the guy that schooled Pedro Munhoz when Pedro Munhoz was coming off of his Garbrandt win. Aljaimain Sterling, aside from getting knocked out against Sean O'Malley and getting beat up and bullied a little bit against Petr Yan, like who else has actually just sunned this guy on the feet? Because before he ever fought for the title, people were talking about how Aljaimain Sterling was similar to John Jones insofar as he was a really well-rounded fighter that could do it all, and he could do everything on the feet. He could throw spinning kicks, he could throw side kicks, spinning back fists. You know, he had that funky style. Not many people have actually schooled him. He's got that high output, low-key, solid striking. Now, of course, it gets exposed when he goes up against the best in the world, but he's only, again, gotten beat up against the best strikers in the world. O'Malley, Petr Yan, everyone else that Aljo fights, including like guys like Movsar who have decent striking. And some people are going to sit there and say, no, Movsar's trash, bro. Dude, Movsar pieced up Dan Ige. All right, I don't want to hear it. That's why we have so many tiers, because we need to make our distinctions. So, yeah, I got Aljo in the B tier. Pedro Munhoz, I'm going to put Pedro Munhoz in the C tier. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt as a bantamweight, 100%. But, you know, let's be honest. I think Pedro Munhoz has always had super overrated striking. I think he's one of the most mediocre strikers that we've ever seen at bantamweight. He's just not that good, and that's why he's in the C tier. But I'm not going to put him D tier, F tier. Those are reserved for some of the heavier fighters. As we get on to S tier striker, Sean O'Malley, I'm just going to throw him in the S tier immediately. Pretty obvious. Nobody has schooled O'Malley on the feet. Nobody's really beat him up. You know, Yan was competitive with him, but Yan is one of the best strikers we've ever seen, so that's not really going to put O'Malley lower on the list. I mean, he could do it all. He can switch stances, fight from both stances, high output, good with his hands, good with his kicks, incredibly fast, knockout power, again, volume on his side too. I think he would school people like Sandhagen, who people talk about as being really good strikers. I think O'Malley is an S-tier striker. I think he's probably a top 5 striker in the sport, if not, like, maybe the best striker in the entire sport right now. So, starting off with some bantamweights. Let's get on to another fighter, and that is, who are we going to go with? There's so many people that we could discuss on this list. I'm kind of looking for bantamweights or featherweights. Let's go with Dan Ige. Let's talk about Dan Ige. I'm going to put Ige in the B tier. That's right. Movsar Evloev schooled Dan Ige on the feet. That's why I'm going to put him in the B- tier. He's a good striker. He's got KO power 100%. But, I mean, you know what? Maybe I'll put him in the B tier with Aljo. I think him and Aljo are actually pretty similar level. Now, some people might start rioting in the comments and saying, bro said Dan Ige, Hands of Steel Ige was in the same tier as Aljo. Just because Aljo doesn't have a lot of power doesn't mean Dan Ige isn't on a similar level of striking. These guys will beat, in a striking match, the same level of fighters. And again, I keep bringing up the Evloev fight because I saw him flying knee Dan Ige and piece him up a little bit. Like, we saw Evloev and Aljo fight. They were pretty competitive on the feet, even though there weren't a lot of striking exchanges. But I think Dan Ige's a decent striker. I think he's heavily reliant on big KOs. I think when he goes up against the upper echelon in his division, he struggles and he gets slightly outputted. But at the end of the day, he's getting wins against alien build Sean Woodson. And that's pretty good. I'd put Sean Woodson in the B- tier. I think Sean Woodson is pretty good. Maybe even in the B tier. I think that him and Dan Ige are actually similar level. But again, keep in mind, Aljamain Sterling getting faceplant KO'd against Sean O'Malley has absolutely nothing to do with the fact that he has bad striking. It's just that Sean O'Malley can make a decent striker like Aljo look like trash. And again, people would just be so quick to call Aljo a shit striker. But it's like, yeah, but who against, though? Like, he literally outstruck Cejudo, who just had a razor-close striking match with Song Yadong. So, I don't want to hear it. Let's get on to the next one. Youssef Zalal. I'm going to put Youssef Zalal in the B+ tier. I think that Youssef Zalal is a really solid striker. You know what? I'm almost tempted to put him in the A tier. I actually just might throw him in the A tier right now. Youssef Zalal has been looking unbelievable. People hate this guy because of what he did to Calvin Kattar, a.k.a. fucking pieced up Calvin Kattar and showed why freaking kickboxing is superior to boxing and MMA if you know how to kickbox. This guy can switch stances. He's Speedy Gonzalez on the feet. He's got great kicks, a sweet piece special that you'll write home about, all right? And amazing, impeccable defense. Now, the running, of course, that was annoying. I'm not going to talk about that as far as his defense goes, but he's got great timing. I'm putting this guy A tier. I think he pieces most people up. I think you put him in there with Lerone Murphy, I think he pieces him up, all right? So, Youssef Zalal, underrated as fuck, all right? Now, people are going to talk about Calvin Kattar. I wouldn't really put Calvin Kattar that high. Now, I might end up putting Youssef Zalal lower on the list, given, or we'll see. We'll have to see who goes in the A tier, but he's no lower than B+. He is a better striker than Dan Ige. He would outstrike Dan Ige. And ultimately, that's what it's about. This is not a tier list based on, well, technically, I've been watching tape and this guy's sidekick is actually a little bit more crafty and crafty, and he's actually really nuanced with his footwork. This is not a beakers and test tubes freaking video, okay? This is a results video. We're doing results only. That's it. Who have you outstruck? Who has outstruck you? Okay? Who have you had close fights with? It's based on results. That's it. I don't want to hear anyone say, well, technically Adesanya is actually the better striker. It's just that No. If you're getting outstruck in MMA, unless you're facing the best wrestler in the world and they have a impressive performance because of the threat of the takedown, most cases where it's striker versus striker, whoever wins is the better striker in MMA. All right? 99% of the time, unless it's like a weird stylistic matchup clash. Results-based tier making only. All right? Let's get to Ian Garry, man. I'm putting Ian Garry in the A tier, dude. I'm putting Ian Garry in the A tier. Fuck it, I'm putting them in the A+ tier. Listen, I think of Carlos Prates really highly. I think Carlos Prates' striking is legit. I think he's got great timing. I think he's got great counters. I think he's got wicked power. Very confident on the feet. Like, he's a phenomenal striker, and we just saw Ian Garry piece him up for 4 rounds and kind of make him look like a fool. He was beating him to the punch. He was much faster than him. He was able to outkick him. He was able to outjab him. And sure, he got hurt in the last round when he got a little bit tired, but for 4 rounds, he pieced up a long-rangey kickboxer that I thought was going to knock him out pretty easily on the feet. And it just goes to show that Ian Garry is no joke on the feet. He looked kind of shitty against Shavkat, but to be honest, I feel like he may have been, not only was it a short notice fight, but I think it was 4 weeks notice for him, but I honestly think he may have been injured. He really looked terrible against Shavkat, but We saw what he was capable of at his best against Carlos Prates, who I am going to put in the B tier, man. Fuck it, dude. I'm putting Carlos Prates in the A tier. I think he's a really good striker. I do. You know who I'm going to put in the B plus tier? I'm looking for Leon Edwards. I'm going to put Leon Edwards in the B plus tier. I'm just trying to show you guys the levels and the layers. Now, you may say, well, isn't this results-based? And who the heck is Carlos Prates been able to get past? And it's like, dude, yes, it's result-based, but it's also like this guy was styling on Li Jingliang. Li Jingliang is like a B tier, B minus tier level striker, maybe B minus tier. He's very dangerous on the feet. And Carlos Prates just toyed with him and made him look like a fool and knocked him out. You know, we saw what he did to Charles Radke, and I know Mike Mallet just beat up Charles Radke, but that was a really impressive performance. I don't think Leon Edwards is dominating any of those guys. I think Leon Edwards is having a 29-28, or no. He's having a 30-27 decision against someone like Li Jingliang. Leon Edwards is beating Li Jingliang. I don't think he's doing it as dominantly. And I think that Carlos Prates beats Leon Edwards. Okay, I think Leon Edwards is a good striker. He's a great striker. But let's be honest, like, who's he really outstriking? RDA, Colby Covington, Kamaru Usman. I know those guys have the threat of the takedown, but it's like, dude, Leon Edwards has never been a dominant striker. I don't even understand how this guy was champ. But he was. He just fucking made it happen. He had a great performance against Usman. But I'm putting him in the B plus tier, man. I'm putting Carlos Prates in the A tier. Let's get on to the next one. Dricus Du Plessis, man. I'm putting Dricus Du Plessis in the A tier. I think Dricus is a really solid striker. You know what? I'm putting Carlos Prates in the B plus tier. I just doesn't sit well with me to have him above Leon when he just hasn't fought the same levels of competition. I need to see him dominate somebody that is a really solid in their prime fighter before I have him in the A tier. If he can show me something that Leon Edwards has never done, aka school a prime fighter, and fair enough, Leon Edwards kind of schooled Kamaru Usman in the trilogy, but like, if Carlos Prates can do that, I'm going to put him A tier. But right now, he'll be in the same tier as Leon. But I have Dricus in the A tier, and some people are going to have an aneurysm seeing Dricus Du Plessis ahead of Leon Edwards. And what I have to say to you is, you're having Adesanya Blachowicz syndrome. You're looking at Adesanya's fancy feint game, and you're thinking of him through the lens of the Glazers and the UFC media and Joe Rogan, who glaze him all the time. And you're like, well, Leon Edwards is the better striker. And it's like, okay, based on what? Based on other people saying that and him being touted as a great striker? And when people talk about Dricus Du Plessis, they say, I don't know how this guy's winning. He's just a brute. Dude, Dricus Du Plessis schooled Sean Strickland, beat the fuck out of him. Okay, yes, he had a tough fight with Adesanya, and he still was doing all right. But you know what? If you were asking me after the Adesanya fight, I'd put him in B plus tier. After the Sean Strickland fight, this guy has improved even more. I'm putting him in the A tier. You don't understand how impressive that is. Sean Strickland has unbelievably good striking. He shut down Adesanya. I think I'd give him a pretty good chance to beat Robert Whittaker in the striking. We were talking about him as one of the best strikers in the sport. And Dricus Du Plessis literally just volume mashed on him, styled on him for 5 rounds, which is very impressive to do against someone with great defense. And that's why I'm putting him in the A tier. Sean Strickland, I'm going to say he's A tier as well. Maybe B tier. I'll put him B plus tier. I think that Strickland is at the very top of the B plus tier, honestly. Would lighter man skill Leon Edwards be able to give him a fight? Yeah, it'd be a tough fight. I think Strickland might be able to get the better of it. But, you know, I think Dricus is a better striker. I know I'm just basing it off of one matchup, but you know what? I think the Dricus is really formidable on the feet, man. And he did well against Adesanya. He finished Robert Whittaker. I mean, I know he's sloppy, but like, I just think he's improved. I think he's better than he was even a year ago. And that's why I have him a tier higher than Sean Strickland, who's very good, who is going to be at the top of the B tier. Listen, I know that might seem low, but like at the end of the day, guys, listen, he's a middleweight. You know, you can only be so good as a middleweight. I don't think any middleweight's going to be higher than A tier. there's going to be a couple light heavyweights higher, but you get my point. Dricus Du Plessis is high up here. And you know what, Sean Strickland, yeah, he's got good defense, but at the end of the day, let's not act like the Adesanya fight was his only fight. Like, he had a pretty lackluster performance against Paulo Costa where he really left a lot on the table there. Left a lot to be desired. He just didn't do a whole lot other than teep and throw a jab every once in a while. And it's like, yeah, you have the Abu Smagomedov fight where he could TKO people and whatnot, but you got the Jared Cannonier fight where it's like razor close. So I don't think that Strickland is this, oh no, but Strickland, man, you got to have him at least 8 here. He's the Mayweather of freaking MMA. No, dude. He's got great defense. But I think that win over Adesanya is more showing that Adesanya has just been super overrated throughout the years. It's also Strickland, who was underrated at the time, proving us wrong, but still. Let's get on to the next one. RDA. I'm going to put RDA in the freaking D tier, man. I'm putting RDA in the D tier. I think RDA has some extreme mid-level striking. In his prime, he'd probably be in the Bs somewhere, but right now, I mean, he's losing to everyone. He's losing to Luke A. He's getting blitzkrieg KO'd against Jeff Neal. RDA just has nothing on the feet other than some, pretty basic kickboxing. I'm going to put him in the C tier. I think D tier is a little bit low. A little bit of this is how effective are you, right? I mean, it's not just based on technique, as I said. A lot of it's just results and how effective you are. RDA is just not effective at all on the feet. And you could say, well, that's just because his competition's so tough. It's like, okay, what are you talking about? Competition on the feet? Colby Covington? Is Colby Covington really this Goliath striker? He outstruck RDA by a little bit, even though it's a very close fight. Usman freaking pieced this guy up. No, but even though 90% of that was grappling, you get my point. Like, when's the last time you've ever seen RDA actually outstrike someone? Renato Moicano on short notice? Well, Moicano ain't nothing to write home about when it comes to his striking. So let's get on to the next one. Jack Hermansson. I'm going to put Jack Hermansson in the B+ tier. And this is going to come as a surprise to a lot of people. But if you think about Jack Hermansson's career, I think that the Jared Cannonier KO loss makes people think that he's like incapable of anything on the feet. Mix that with the fact that he has pillow hands, and it's like, all right, maybe you've got a point. But if you're actually looking at the matchups where he's struck with people recently, and you look at the names, Chris Curtis, styled on Chris Curtis. I know he took it on short notice, but he fought Chris Curtis on the back foot and pieced him up and styled on him and was so hard to hit that he literally made Chris Curtis throw a temper tantrum after the fight. Okay? And after that, he goes in there against Joe Pyfer, who's laying people out cold, who's hitting like a Ford Escort, and he pieces up Joe Pyfer in the later rounds. It was a close fight, but nonetheless, he got the better of Joe Pyfer, who's super tough, whose striking is pretty decent. He's not just a guy that relies on one punch. Like, he actually has okay striking. Jack Hermansson got the better of it. Like, who is really outstriking him that much? Sean Strickland? Yeah, Sean Strickland outstruck him a little bit, but I think Jack Hermansson has improved since the Strickland fight. I think Strickland is kind of the same fighter since then, but I think Hermansson's gotten even better. And you know what? I'm going to put them in the same tier. I think if you put Jack Hermansson out there against Paulo Costa, I think he has a better performance than Sean Strickland. And I think most of you guys would agree with that. No, man. Paulo Costa would run through Jack Hermansson. Yeah. But he couldn't do it to Chris Curtis. Okay? I'm sorry. But Jack Hermansson, Chris Curtis couldn't do it, right? Joe Pyfer couldn't do it. But no. Paulo Costa's going to do it? Yeah, right. Okay? And yeah, I think Jack Hermansson versus Cannonier, I think if they were to have a rematch, it'd be super close. Let's get on to the next one. Brandon Moreno. I'm putting Brandon Moreno in the A+ tier, man. I think he's one of the best flyweight strikers. He just outstruck Steve Ercik, who outstruck Pantoja, and Pantoja's pretty formidable. He outstruck Pantoja, pieced him up, got dropped a couple times, but Pantoja has that like big KO power ability. And Moreno's just been slept on, man. Like, he's a flyweight. We have to recognize he's one of these lighter man skill flyweights. Nobody has comfortably outstruck him. The only person that's come close is Brandon Royval, and I think that was really the case of Brandon Moreno just looking timid that night. Now, I think Brandon Royval's improved, but man, I've seen Moreno land a striking record this year against Albazi, or maybe it was last year. The win over Usyk, the fights with Figueiredo, like he's just got really solid striking, and I think it's slept on, and I think he's super underrated. Great boxing, good kicks. I'm going to put him A+ tier. Okay, keep in mind he's a flyweight. So yeah, let's get to the next one. Dustin Poirier. I'm going to put Dustin Poirier in the A tier. Okay, I think that Poirier has slowed down a tiny bit. I know that he beat Benoit Saint Denis. I get that. And I know that he gave Islam Makhachev a tough outing, but I think if you were to ask me, it's kind of cringy to see him in the same tier as Dricus Du Plessis. Sorry, guys. I'm putting him in the A+ tier. I just couldn't do that, all right? As good as Dricus Du Plessis is, as underrated as he is on the feet, I just can't put Poirier in the same tier as him. Poirier is going to be in the A+ tier. Amazing striking. Very solid striking. Nothing else needs to be said. I was just going to say he's looking to be slowed down a little bit these days. I think he was in his prime against McGregor in the rematch, in the trilogy, against Max Holloway, against Hooker. I think that was prime Poirier. But let's get on to the next one. Max Holloway. I'm going to put Max Holloway in the S tier. I think Max Holloway is still a top 10 striker. And you know what? I know that Poirier beat Max Holloway back in the day. I think Max is going to beat Poirier now. But I think Poirier has gotten a lot better. Even in the Topuria fight, despite the fact that he lost, like this guy gave Topuria a lot of work. He was piecing Topuria up in moments. Like that was a really competitive fight. He was tagging up Topuria, spinning his head back, landing spinning kicks, snapping Topuria's head back with jabs, right hands, great combinations. Like remember, Holloway lost to Volk pretty badly in the trilogy, and then he came back and proved against Arnold Allen, against TKZ, schooled Justin Gaethje, just made Gaethje look like a fool, like a bumbling fool that night, and tested Topuria. And yeah, he got knocked out by Topuria. What? So he has to be a whole tier under him? No, I think Holloway is low S tier. I think that O'Malley's definitely better, but I think Holloway's S tier. I think he's phenomenal. Okay? That shouldn't come as a surprise. Let's get on to the next one. Robert Whittaker. I'm going to put Whittaker in the B+ tier. I don't know if we're looking at prime Whittaker anymore, but he's still a great striker. I'm going to put him in the same tier as some of these other guys. Yeah, I think Whittaker would probably piece up Jack Hermansson, but, you know, Hermansson's low B+ tier. I'm putting Whittaker in the B+ tier. There with Strlckland, there with Leon. There's going to be a lot of debate about that, but listen, man, I think that, I don't know, actually. Who did Whittaker just lose to? Hamzat? Man. I don't know, guys. Whittaker's boxing has definitely improved. Is he a better striker than Sean Strickland? Should Aljo be lower? Should Aljo be B- tier? Nah. We're leaving Whittaker here. We're leaving Whittaker here. I think the Dricus would beat Whittaker if they were to fight. And people would say, well, that's only power. It's like, okay, but like Dricus Du Plessis is not Francis Ngannou. He's not just reliant on one big punch and that's it. Like he would just get in Whittaker's face and land body shots, big leg kicks, and sort of bully him around on the feet a little bit. He's effective. Sorry. Might look ugly as hell, but he's effective. So yeah, I'm putting Whittaker B+ tier. Islam Makhachev. I'm going to put Islam Makhachev A tier. I think Islam Makhachev is a great striker. I think that the performance against Volkanovski, the first fight, we're going to talk about the second fight. Okay, great. He head kicked Volk. Dude, you know what? I'm just going to say this. I know this is like not the video for this, but I think that the second win that he has over Volk is one of the most overrated wins ever. And you guys know how I feel about Islam Makhachev. He's one of my favorite fighters. He's one of my brothers. And most importantly, I always talk about him being like one win away from the GOAT list. So like I'm a Makhachev fan, dude. Can we just talk about how many people Volk would annihilate if they took a fight on 1 week's notice, off of the couch, off of a surgery? It's not even Volk being off of 1 week. It's Volk taking it on 1 week's notice, coming off of a surgery, being fat and out of shape and not training. Most fighters take a fight on 1 week's notice. They're in the gym, like Kamaru Usman was at least in the gym training. Volk had gotten arm surgery. He was not training. And Makhachev KO'd him. Like, you could say, well, it was the first round. Volk's still first round Volk, and he's amazing in the first round. No, dude. That Volk was just a pipsqueak waiting to get destroyed. Like, yes, Volk would beat up unranked featherweights that night, maybe, but like, I'm sorry, man. Think of any of these top-level fighters against someone taking a fight on 1 week's notice off of a surgery, not training and being fat. How would Yan beat up Davidson Figueiredo if Figueiredo didn't train at all and was coming off of a surgery, taking a fight on 1 week's notice, fat? How do you think that would go? How do you think it would go if Volk were to fight, I don't know, let's see. If Volk were to fight Movsar Evloev on a week's notice and Movsar hasn't been training and is coming off of a surgery and shows up fat as fuck, how do you think that would go? Volk would finish him. So, yes, dude, it's a great win for Makhachev, man. But I'm sorry, bro. It's just overrated. It's just so overrated. We have to just say how it is. Would Makhachev beat Volk if he took a fight on 1 week's notice coming off of the couch fat off of a surgery? No! I just needed to say that, bro. I just needed to say that. That could be a hot take. Is that a hot take? People are going to hear my tone of voice and they're going to say, bro, hey, it's Makhachev, man. Dude, I'm a Makhachev fan. I like Islam Makhachev. I'm a big JDM fan. I don't even know who to root for because I like both of them. But you know what? I'm kind of rooting for Makhachev just because I want him to be the GOAT. Okay? I love this guy. I think he's funny, bro. I love his style. He's OP. All right? I'm allowed to criticize how hyped that win is. I think it's so overrated. Okay? Simple as. And I want to know if you guys agree with me. This is a hot take because it's, no, you can't criticize that one. Dude, stop. That's overrated as fuck. But let's get back to it. You may say that Makhachev being A tier is a little bit weird because he outstruck Poirier on the feet and all that. Okay, I understand that. And I'm actually thinking of putting him A+ tier. He did outstrike Volk in the first fight. And I know that when that fight first went down, my initial reaction was Volk got robbed. Volk won rounds 4, round 5, and round 2 or 3. But as I rewatched them, it became clear that Makhachev won 2 and 3 because of the striking. Round 4, I still think Volk won, but it's debatable. That's the round where Volk got his back taken for 3 minutes. I still think that's a debatable round. I'm not even trolling. I'm not rage baiting with that. But Makhachev just did kind of outstrike Volk with the left hand, just countering him with great shots. And I think he's got underrated striking. And I think it's really slick. A part of me is like, yeah, but, you know, he did take Volk down in the first round. Fair enough, he kind of dropped him to one knee in the first round too before even taking him down. But the threat of the takedown was so great in that first fight because that was Volk's first time fighting the monster, the Loch Ness monster, right, of grappling. And it must have been looming in his head, the thought, the threat. And same with Poirier. Takes Poirier down first round. Poirier's got to be worried. Would he be able to outstrike these guys? But at the end of the day, it is just MMA. And Makhachev is not one of these strikers where, you know, when Colby Covington fights Jorge Masvidal, he's able to have a little bit of success on the feet and whatnot. I think that's heavily because of the threat of the takedown. But Makhachev does legitimately have great striking. He has unbelievably good clinch striking, great clinch striking. He's got great kicks, good body kicks, of course, good head kicks. And I think his left hand is gnarly. He's got a gnarly left hand, a gnarly lead hook that he dropped Oliveira with, and great defense. And you know what? I'm actually going to put him A+ tier because of that. I'm remembering the Oliveira fight. He did school Oliveira on the feet and make Oliveira miss and look silly. And, you know, his defense is very good. He did comfortably outstrike Volk in moments when it was just a pure striking battle. I know the threat of the takedown plays a part. That's why I'm not putting him any higher. I think he's low A tier. But, you know, his clinch striking, Makhachev's not one of these guys that's going to wow you. He's not got these really great long-form combinations. He doesn't have anything fancy. He doesn't have this fancy footwork like Volkanovski or whatever. He's not switching stances, but I think he's just mastered the basics, and I think that he's as high as you could possibly get just mastering, a few things, which is clinch knees. He's got great kicks. He's got a great left hand, good defense, underrated head movement in the pocket. I saw the Weasels video recently about Makhachev versus JDM, and he was talking about how Makhachev's actually, he's got good eyes in the pocket. He could see things, man. So I'm going to put him A+ tier. Okay? So yeah, let's get on to the next one. Ignacio Bahamondes. I'm going to put Ignacio in the A tier. I just, knocking out Manuel Torres is very impressive. I think that Ignacio Bahamondes, he's still not even hit his prime, and he's already like styling on people, knocking people's heads into the stands and whatnot, countering great strikers like Manuel Torres. I wouldn't say Manuel Torres is a great striker, but he's very dangerous. He's a solid striker. He just destroyed Drew Dober. Yeah, and he just kind of made him look like a fool. So I'm putting him in the A tier. Crafty vet Davey Grant. I'm going to put Davey Grant in the B tier. I think Davey Grant is the same tier as Ige. I think he's the same tier as Aljo. Now, you may be scared of Davey Grant fighting someone like Dan Ige, but remember, he has that lighter man skill. We don't normally think of crafty vets as lighter men. We usually think of them as old, grizzled, gray vets. But Davey Grant, even though he wakes up to a bowl of grits, he does have the fucking volume of a lighter man. And he's got a fire hydrant for a chin. And he's in a different division. But Davey Grant's kind of got that Aljo striking. Now, this is a thing that I want to come back to when it comes to Aljo. Davey Grant's out there against Ramon Tavares, and he's sort of styling on him and piecing him up a little bit, making him look silly. He was the first guy to give Adrian Yanez a run for his money and arguably got robbed. I think that's of the level of Aljo. I think Aljamain Sterling, if you were to put him against lower levels of competition like Ramon Tavares, who's, he's got this really good, dangerous boxing, it's like, okay, but Aljamain Sterling would still be able to pull off the victory based on volume. And it's like that. Then it really goes to show you the levels. Aljo gets schooled by O'Malley, but if you put him against the lower ranked guys, that's where you see, okay, this is how this guy made it to champion, because it shows how well-rounded he is. He does have that striking. Aljo would have never been champion if he didn't have decent striking. Okay? So I'm putting Davey Grant B tier. Justin the Highlight Gaethje. It kind of pains me to say this, but I'm going to put him in the A tier, man. I'm putting him in the A tier. I think that if Gaethje were to fight Whittaker, I think some people say, no, mate, Whittaker would school him. But, man, Gaethje he's like Dricus. He's got an ugly style. I love watching Gaethje fight, but he's just got an ugly style. You don't really know how it works, but it just works. But he can't be higher than A, okay? And I know that he just beat Rafael Fiziev, and that's really impressive and whatnot, but it's like, he can't be that much higher, all right? A tier is for the fucking slicksters. It's reserved for people that are slick, that you can't have an ugly style and be A+ tier. I'm talking A+ tier, not just A tier. But yeah, I'd say he's A tier. He knocked out Dustin Poirier in a pure striking battle. We've seen him beat Fiziev twice now. What more do you need? He's very good. I think Fiziev would be B+. I think Fiziev is a great striker, but I think he's been overrated because he's aura farmed. Rafael Fiziev is an aura farmer. And where is Fiziev? Let's get Fiziev. Where is this guy? He's kind of hard to spot because there's so many people on this list. Oh, here he is. Let's talk about Rafael Fiziev. Here comes the hot take. I got Rafael Fiziev in the B+ tier. I know some people are going to bang their heads against the wall because they're seeing this. But, guys, let's be honest. We have to be honest now. He's the same tier as Jack Hermansson. Nah, dude, I don't know, man. Hermansson in the B tier. Should we put him B? Should we put him B? Lighter man Aljamain Sterling? Yeah, let's put Hermansson in the B tier. It didn't feel right to have him higher. We're putting Hermansson in the B tier. But I got Fiziev in the B+ tier. Listen, Fiziev's great, but if you've only got a round in you, and not only that, but you're not even like a KO guy, it'd be one thing if Fiziev had like Tom Aspinall finishing ability in one round and then it dropped off. Fiziev doesn't even have that. He doesn't even have this crazy KO potential, even though he knocked out Renato Moicano, even though it was a bit of an early stoppage. He has crazy thud, unbelievable thud. He's thud maxing, but still, I'm sorry, cardio is a part of it. Output is a part of it. Rafael Fiziev is unbelievable in the first round, but he still is getting beat by a lot of these guys. Mateusz Gamrot was spinning his head back like an owl against Rafael Fiziev. Landed that right hand, that underrated right hand of Gamrot. Fiziev is a good striker. He's solid, but don't let the Viking hairstyle and the quick twitch Muay Thai coach. You know how you go to a Muay Thai gym, a kickboxing gym, and every now and then there will be one coach who you're like, dude, how the fuck is this guy not like a world champ? How is this guy not a world beater? I feel like a lot of Muay Thai gyms, they have like a density maxer Muay Thai coach who's just got freakish explosive ability. And he's just got perfect kicks, all that, great technique. But the thing is, it's probably been the case that they have tried to fight. It's just when they did, they probably just gassed out. And that's like Rafael Fiziev. He's like the archetypal Muay Thai coach. You go into the gym, and he's styling on the fighters, right? He's styling on the people that compete, and he's teaching them. And he's on the bag, and he's on the pads, and he's just looking insane. And then he gets in the cage, and he looks insane for about 5 minutes. And then, second, third round, he looks good. He looks great, but he doesn't look insane. Now, it does feel just so wrong to have this guy next to Sean Teep and Jab Strictland. And so for that reason, I'm getting a little worried here. You know what? I'm putting him A tier. I'm sorry, guys. It took all of that yapping for me to just realize, wait a second, this guy is in the same tier as Sean Strickland, who didn't beat the fuck out of Paulo Costa. Strickland beat Paulo Costa comfortably. I'm sorry, but you need to show a greater skill gap. It's like the critique I had on Adesanya back in the day. I was like, he's overrated in the striking, and people were like, why? I'm like, dude, he's not showing tremendous skill gaps against some of these mid strikers, okay? Like, he was showing skill gaps, clear ones, but not tremendous ones that some other fighters had shown. Like, you want to see Max Holloway go out there and prove he's still one of the best in the world, you have him school and batter Calvin Kattar, who's a great striker, right? That's a skill gap. Adesanya scrapes by against Cannonier, right? I can't have a guy in Sean Strickland who sort of pitter-patted against Paulo Costa in the same tier as Rafael Fiziev. So I'm going to put Fiziev A tier. Let's be honest, even though Justin Gaethje has beat Fiziev, they were razor close fights. Like, we can't act like they weren't. Fiziev was right there in the first fight. Gaethje just snuck out the win. Like, he won the last 2 minutes of the second round, and then he won the third round, but the last 2 minutes were more damaging than the first 3 minutes. They're basically on a similar level. Gaethje's just a hair above, but I think they're basically same tier. But yeah, I think Fiziev is low A tier. Now people are going to be like, well, bro, he's in the same tier as Dricus. But yeah, whatever. I think Youssef Zalal would give him a fucking run for his money. Let's get to Paulo Costa. I think Costa is in the B- tier. I think Costa is like really mid, dude. I think that Costa's only good when he moves forward like a tank, like he did against Yoel Romero. But when he's actually in a striking battle and he's somewhat composed, he just gets destroyed. Like we saw him get destroyed against Adesanya. And fair enough, maybe he tried initially to move forward on Adesanya. That was like Adesanya's best performance ever. But, after he started getting tagged up, shown levels, he just sort of didn't do shit. But then, you look at the fights against Marvin Vettori where he gets beat by Vettori. And, you look at the Luke Rockhold fight where it's like old man Luke Rockhold. People are saying he has no chin and Costa has a competitive fight with him. I think he's B- tier. I don't think he's C tier, although I think he's kind of close. I think he's honestly C tier. I think Costa might be C tier striking. I think he's going to get whooped by Roman Kopylov, but look at these other guys in C tier. What do they all have in common? They're all tough outs. I know RDA was a champion. I'm going to put some respect on his name. He's old. I'm not just judging him based on his recent performance, but, I'm not going to have a lot of washed up fighters on this tier list because of that, but they're all tough outs. Costa's a tough out, and he's got some thud. He's going to give you a couple of body shots. He's going to give you a hard stinging leg kick, but he's just not got a whole lot going on, right? Yeah, he can get schooled by a lot of people. And I think Roman Kopylov will have an easier fight against Paulo Costa than he did against Chris Curtis. I think Chris Curtis is much better than Paulo Costa. Let's get on to Carlos Ulberg. I'm going to put Ulberg in the B tier. I think Ulberg is a decent striker, but you know what? I think he's also just in a shitty division. And I think he's just getting by Jan Blachowicz because Jan Blachowicz literally looked old and slow for the first time ever. I mean, he's always been kind of slow, but Jan Blachowicz wasn't even making you scratch your head in his last outing, asking yourself, man, how'd he move that fast that time, man? How'd that old man move that fast? He wasn't even making you do that time. So Jan Blachowicz is officially washed. And we say that because we know that Prime Jan would be too much for Ulberg. This is sounding like some cope, but like, you know Jan is officially washed when Carlos Midberg beats him, okay? Let's be honest. Carlos Ulberg is, for the light heavyweight division, a good striker. But even at light heavyweight, he's not wowing us. What does that mean when you compare him to lighter people like Davey Grant, Aljo, Ige? It's like, bro, if Ulberg were to fight Ige, he'd probably get KO'd. Okay? But, you know, we got to have some room for these light heavyweights to be looked at and, you know, mostly compared to their other heavyweight fighters and whatnot. So we're going to put Ulberg in the B tier. But, listen, he's just not as good as Strlckland, Whittaker, Leon Edwards. But he's B tier, okay? Honestly, I think he's kind of B- tier. He's just so average, man. Would Jan Blachowicz be able to beat Prime Davey? Would Jan Blachowicz be able to beat Prime Davey Grant? Yeah, dude. Jan Blachowicz would be B+ tier or A tier. Damn, dude. So B- tier just beat a former A tier. I don't think. Nah. You can't be able to beat former A tier Jan Blachowicz, even if he's washed. If you're B- tier, you at least need to be B tier to beat former A tier Jan Blachowicz. Okay, so let's get on to Jiri Prochazka. Man. I think Yuri's B+ tier. I do. I think that Jamal Hill performance proved it. Listen, Yuri's got an ugly style like Dricus, and he gets hit. Ugly style? Actually, no, he doesn't. He doesn't have an ugly style. Yuri does not have an ugly style. He actually has a very flowy style. He gets hit, right? His defense is not that good, but he actually looks very good when he's throwing his punches, right? And you can tell he's like a natural striker. He's a natural fighter, unlike Justin Gaethje. And again, you know, I like Justin Gaethje's fight style, but I've never really been a huge fan of his fight style in comparison to other guys like Poirier and Holloway that are more slick on the feet. I just don't understand being a Justin Gaethje #1 fan. You know what I mean? I've never really got that. You know, I feel like your favorite fighter's got to be a fighter that's got that slick ability to throw that sweet piece special, man. But Justin Gaethje has never had that. You know? My favorite fighter could never be someone that just grunts and breaks down minds the way he does. But either way, Jiri Prochazka is not an ugly striker. He is a very natural flowing striker that just happens to not care about getting hit because he's autistic. But, you know, he's working on it and it's gotten better. And I'm going to put him B+ tier. I know it's weird to see a guy that gets hit as much as Jiri does in the same tier as a guy that doesn't really get hit like Sean Strickland. But, you know, I think Yuri's pretty good. I think he would knock out Carlos Ulberg with his new style. And Yuri's one of those guys where it's like you don't really know how he wins sometimes, but he just does because he's got that holy martial arts ghost willing him to victory. And you know what? It works in his striking. He's not out-grappling anyone. Let's get on to Brandon Royval. I'm going to put Royval in the A tier. I think Royval's a great striker. All right, he's got good boxing. He's fast. He's slick. He's got the lighter man skill. I'm going to put him A tier. No need for a long explanation on him. Let's get to Magomed, though. I'm going to put Magomed in the A tier, man. I think Magomed is pretty much as high as you can get for light heavyweight right now, okay? I'm just going to say it how it is. Alex Pereira did not look to be at his best against Magomed. He just did look a little slow. Maybe he's starting to age, but maybe it still hasn't set in how good Magomed is yet. If Magomed knocks out Pereira, pieces him up again, I might put him A+ tier. I don't know. I just have a hard time putting Magomed higher than A tier because he still doesn't do that much on the feet. He's just got, decent counters. He's sort of like Leon Edwards, but a little bit higher level, right? Like he just does barely enough. But if you're just doing barely enough to outstrike Alex Pereira, that is pretty unbelievable. I'm going to put him A tier. He's got great boxing. He's got okay front kicks. But, is he Makhachev level? No. Is he Ian Garry level? No. He's not Poirier level. Like, he's a good striker. He's a great striker. But, yeah, I can't put him much higher. Let's get to the F tier. Ray Suruya is going to be in the F tier. This guy, against the lowest levels of competition in the UFC, had nothing but takedowns, absolutely no striking. So this is just an example of someone that's in the F tier. We got Jorge Masvidal eating pizza. I don't know why that's here, but we got Masvidal eating pizza. I'm going to put that in the, we're not going to use that in the frickin' tier list. I think I was planning on doing another video as well. I am still going to make that video, so I'm not going to tell you guys what it is, but it's going to be a tier list. Either way, Corey Sandhagen. Where is Sandhagen? I'm going to put Sandhagen in the C tier. I think that Sandhagen is one of the most overrated strikers ever. And I'll tell you why. No, I'm just kidding. I'm going to have Sandhagen in the B+ tier. I think Sandhagen's a great striker, but I think he's declined a little bit on the feet. I do. I think he has declined a little bit on the feet. Listen, Sandhagen got past Song Yadong and he was able to outstrike him, right? But he got beat up and schooled a little bit on the feet against Umar Nurmagomedov. He's gotten beat by Yan. He will get beaten by O'Malley. Maybe he's A tier. Maybe I should be a little bit more generous, but I don't know, man. I feel like Youssef Zalal would piece him up with pure speed. But then Gaethje being ahead, I'll put Sandhagen A tier. I'll put him A tier, low A tier. Again, I think that he would have been high A tier a few years ago, but he's looking slower these days. His boxing isn't looking as good. I think prime Sandhagen striking was against TJ Dillashaw, but now I don't know. He's not really wowing me at all. Like the fight he had against Figueiredo, he looked really good, but mostly with his grappling. His striking didn't look special at all. And against Umar, he just had nothing on the feet. But I'll give him the A tier. I'll give him benefit of the doubt. Nico Price, I'll put Nico Price in the D tier. Pretty good for a dodo bird, to be honest. You can't really hold it against him. Like, most people wouldn't be able to get this far in the UFC if they were born as a dodo bird. So I'm going to put Nico Price in the D tier. He's not F tier. He's not got no striking, but he's slow. He's probably one of the slowest fighters of all time. Let's get to Benoit Saint Denis. I'm going to put Benoit Saint Denis in the B tier, man. Benoit Saint Denis, man. Listen. I know he got beat up by Poirier. I know his defense is not that good. No, I'm going to put him B- tier. These guys are at the level where they would comfortably be able to be the matador and style on with volume against Benoit Saint Denis, right? So Benoit Saint Denis, I'll put him B tier. He's obviously not mid like RDA and freaking Pedro Munhoz and Paulo Costa. Like, Benoit actually has power. He imposes his will. He's got no defense whatsoever, and he's slow, but he's got good clinch striking. Like, he will just move forward and knock people out. At a low level, he'll just blitzkrieg through people. But you start getting to the Bs, and people will be able to, be a little bit slicker. Then maybe he can knock out a guy in the B tier. B+ tier, it's going to be hard for him. A tier, he's getting schooled. So I'm putting Benoit Saint Denis in the B- tier. Let's get on to who else we got. Arman Tsarukyan. I'm going to put Arman Tsarukyan in the A tier. I think Arman is a solid striker, man. I think he's pretty solid. Maybe the B+ tier. He did kind of outstrike Charles comfortably in the third round, where Charles just froze up and was so wary of the takedown. That's kind of a problem in Charles's game, but I think that's because the brother style really makes Charles freeze. When someone can take him down and put him on his back and he can't just easily submit them, he really does freeze up on the feet and doesn't even let his hands go. But still, Arman looked faster than him, pieced him up a little bit. Maybe I'm underestimating Arman here. I mean, he did outstrike Gamrot, and he should have won that fight. And he's got a great kicking game. I'm going to put him A tier. I think Arman's striking is actually pretty good. I think it's a step below Makhachev. I think Makhachev would outstrike him. But for a lightweight, I know that his grappling is OP, and I think that's why most people would probably put him lower, just because his grappling really does outshine his striking. But you got to give him some credit for pushing back Oliveira. And you could say, well, it's the threat of the takedown. But it's like, dude, if you're talking about Oliveira as one of the best grapplers in history, I don't know if that's the best case scenario to say the threat of the takedown, right? I mean, Oliveira is someone that's dangerous on the ground. So I don't know if you could just say that's the threat of the takedown. It's like with him versus Makhachev, those are two of the best grapplers on the planet. I don't know if it's the threat of the takedown. It's definitely part of it. But still, I don't think it gives you an excuse. All right, either way. Let's get on to Asual Mabayev. I'm going to put him in the B- tier. That's about as low as you can get for a freaking... I'm putting him C tier. He'd probably be pretty decent in the heavier weight classes, but like he would piece up Paulo Costa and knock him out in the heavier weight classes for sure if he was a bigger fighter. But Asual Mabayev, he had nothing from Manel Cap. Like, I don't think I've ever seen Asual Mabayev actually look decent on the feet. He gets pieced up. He's just a wrestler. And if he can't take you down, he's like an OP version. He's like an OP version of Ray Suruya. He's Ray Suruya at Ray Suruya's peak when Ray Suruya has maxed out his striking stats in career mode. But his striking is just not that good. Maybe that has to do with Manel Cap being next level, but still, man, I'm sorry. I'm putting him freaking C tier. Let's get on to Lerone Murphy. I'm going to put Lerone Murphy in the B tier. I think he's good, but I don't think he's great. I think Lerone Murphy is just barely getting past the matchups like Dan Ige, and they're basically on a similar level. Josh Emmett, he shut down Josh Emmett. But like, dude, Josh Emmett's not good on the feet. I know that Josh Emmett's dangerous. I know that when your favorite fighter fights Josh Emmett, you get scared. But let's be honest, like Josh Emmett's just not good at all on the feet. Like, he is better than C tier, but he just will get schooled and shut down and just made to look like he's got nothing other than a big meaty hook. This is literally why we started calling him big meaty hooks, because that's literally all he has. I'm putting Josh Emmett in the same tier as, Benoit Saint-Denis. He's got the lighter man skill compared to Benoit, so maybe he would look a little bit more competitive at lightweight, but still, he's just not got anything going on for him on the feet at all. I don't know. I feel like Benoit Saint-Denis is an even better striker, but he's in the B- tier, Josh Emmett. He's like barely B- tier, okay? But his power really carries him. I know that every now and then he has a chance to make the person in front of him look like they should have never have even picked up the sport of MMA. He does that to people where it's like, damn, dude, this guy was unlucky to choose MMA as a sport. But then when people can survive Josh Emmett, they just do win. Like, how did this guy get a win over Calvin Kattar? That's beyond me. That was one of the worst robberies of all time. But still, man, Josh Emmett's just not that good on the feet. Let's get on to Manuel Torres. I'm putting Manuel Torres in the B tier. He's pretty dangerous. He's like holding on by a thread in the B tier because of his danger factor. But when he goes up against a slick striker, he's kind of like Benoit Saint-Denis. Maybe a slightly improved version. But it's like they're going to destroy people at a lower level. Benoit might even be able to beat Dober too. Maybe not, but, he can get past Dober. He can destroy people at a lower level. But you put him up in there with a great striker, and he's getting knocked out because of how bad his defense is. So I'm going to put Manuel Torres in the B tier. He's like the opposite of Aljo. He's super dangerous, and that can hold him in there against, decent fighters. But, I don't know, man. I'll put him B- tier. But then Josh Emmett's in the same tier as Manuel Torres. That doesn't feel right either. I'll put him in the B tier. Jared Cannonier. I'm going to put Jared Cannonier. I'm going to put him in the B tier. I think Jared Cannonier is a decent striker. I'm not going to have him much higher than B. I think that Gregory Rodriguez is B tier as well. Gregory Rodriguez is very dangerous. Cannonier's good. He had an amazing performance against Vettori. But let's be honest, Vittori's in the C tier. Vettori might even be in the D tier, right? I think Cannonier's high B. And you may say that's disrespectful. He's in the same tier as Aljo and Davey Grant. It's like, dude, Yeah, and what? Davey Grant is a good striker. So is Cannonier, but he's not higher than B. I think that Strlckland is slightly better. I know that Cannonier beat Strlckland, but still, man, I think Strickland's slightly better than Cannonier. So I'm going to put him B tier. I know it's weird to see him, below Yuri, but I feel like Yuri would knock Cannonier out. Cannonier's problem has always been he's a little bit chinny. And I know that people don't really finish him, but he does get dropped a lot. Let's get on to Joel Alvarez. I'm going to put Joel Alvarez in the A tier. I think he's got A tier level striking. I can't say he's proven anything past that. He's barely A tier. He's sort of like Ignacio Bahamondes. You kind of just know that he's higher than B plus because he's been schooling people and looking insanely fast. I mean, it's not like the people he's schooling are low level either. Getting a win over Elvis Brenner in the way that he got it done is very impressive. He just beat Elvis Brenner's ass. Elvis Brenner's pretty decent on the feet. Yeah, I think Joel Alvarez, you put him against mid-tier level lightweights and he's styling on them and knocking them out. He might even be able to beat Ignacio. He might even be able to beat Rafael Fiziev in a striking battle. I'll put him A tier. As we get on to Reinier de Ridder, I'm putting Reinier de Ridder in the B minus tier. I think Reinier de Ridder's just got that funky style like Aljo, but it's worse. It's more handicapped because he really only has knees and elbows and a clunky jab and a right hand. And he just sort of gets by on pure grit and toughness and imposing his will. So I'll put him B minus tier. Man, Josh Emmett's just C tier. I'm sorry, man. I got to put Josh Emmett C tier. I just can't have him higher than B. I can't have him in the same tier as Benoit Saint Denis. Nah, I'm putting Emmett. Nah. Like Benoit Saint Denis is that good. No. I think that, I think Reinier de Ridder C tier. I'm sorry, guys. I'm actually going to put Reinier in a lower tier. Reinier is as good as it can get in the C tier. He's unlike Pedro Munhoz, who can actually do a little bit of everything on the feet, but just is totally mid everywhere. But he's kind of good in a couple of places and just terrible in other places, right? He's got that dog in him, right? He's got the grit, which is good. He's got great knees, clinch striking, right? He can do really well in the dirty boxing range, and that's perfect for his style. If he can't take down someone, which it's going to be hard for him to take down Whittaker, I think that we will see him get absolutely styled on. But against really low-level strikers, he's going to be able to get past them, like we saw him do against Bo Nickel, who's a very low-level striker. And we saw Reinier de Ridder get past him on just pure grit, right? Having those, good crafty knees helped him as well. So I'll put him in the C tier. Michael Chiesa, I'm going to put Michael Chiesa in the F tier. I think Michael Chiesa is an awful striker. He's one tier below Nico Price. Austin Bashi, I just remembered Austin Bashi is, the guy that got fraud checked in his debut. Not fraud checked. He wasn't really that expected to beat Christian Rodriguez, but like Ray Cerulla, just had takedowns and nothing else. He can improve, though. But yeah, I'm going to put him F tier. Let's see, Petr Yan. I'm going to put Petr Yan in the B minus tier. I think that Yan, I can't even fool you guys with that rage bait. I'm putting Yan in the S tier. Self-explanatory. One of the best boxers in UFC history. Top 5 boxer in the sport. I think he's a better boxer than Poirier right now. And it's not only his boxing. This guy's got wicked kicks as well. He's got flying knees. He's got spinning kicks. He's got switch kicks to the body, leg kicks, knee stomps. Like, this guy's slick everywhere with everything that he does on the feet. So, yeah, he's S tier for sure. Petr Yan's definitely S tier. Let's see. We got Jack Della Maddalena. I'm putting JDM in the A plus tier, man. JDM's got ridiculously good striking. I got him in the A plus tier, high A plus tier. That should come as no surprise. Wicked boxing, and you know what? His kicking game actually looked pretty good against Belal Muhammad as well. All those front kicks to the body, those looked great. The leg kicks looked really good. But, this guy showed us in that last fight that he can not only move forward and put, good combinations on people, but he can also fight on the back foot and counter really well too. So he can do it all on the feet. I think Jack Della Maddalena, especially against like someone that's his stature, I think that's really when we see the best of JDM in the striking, where, you may have looked back at that Kevin Holland fight and said, well, that was a little bit slow, man, but he still outstruck Kevin Holland. And I think when you get him in the cage with someone that's, around his height, 2 inches shorter, 2 inches taller, I think he styles on most people. And if he knocks out Makhachev or pieces up Makhachev, I think he's going S tier, right? I think he's going S tier. Where is Belal? We got to get to Bilal Muhammad. I want to get to him because I think that he's actually got pretty underrated striking. But first, let's get to Gamrot. Gamrot, I'm going to put Gamrot in the B tier or B minus tier. Maybe the B tier, man. I'm putting Gamrot in the B tier. He's actually got slightly underrated striking. He gets dropped, but his striking is slightly underrated. Good body shots. Nah, I'm putting Gamrot in the B minus tier, man. You know, Gamrot's a tough out. He's like a solid elite level tough out. You know, Pedro Munhoz is like a unranked tough out at this point for fighters that want to get to the rankings. You know, someone that's like on the verge of getting ranked, they'll fight tough out Pedro Munhoz. Gamrot's a tough out for like top 10 lightweights. And the lightweight division is really stacked. So I'll put him B minus tier. He's got a good right hand. Let's get to Volk, man. Volkanovski. I'm going to put Volk in the S tier. All right. Even though Volk is a little bit older and he's not as good as he was in his prime, and some people are going to disagree with that, but listen, his footwork just didn't look as fast. It didn't look as slick. His speed is still pretty good, but he didn't have the same speed that he did against Max Holloway in the trilogy, against the Korean Zombie, but he's still S tier with the way that he pieced up in their prime Diego Lopez, who's super dangerous. He was in the pocket with Diego in the early rounds, stinging him up, hurting him, piecing him up, beating him to the punch. The sweet pea special's still there. The kicks are still there. I think he's S tier still. Volkanovski still in the S tier for striking. In there with Max Holloway, man. But he's not better than O'Malley. O'Malley's even better than him right now, I think. But yeah, let's get on to Cal Baraujo. I'm going to put Baraujo in the B plus tier. I think you may look at Baraujo as a predominant grappler, but I think his striking is pretty underrated. He's got good power. We saw him beat Jared Cannonier pretty comfortably on the feet. I'll put him B plus tier. Pretty good for a middleweight, right? Pretty dangerous boxing. It's improved quite a bit. Movsar Evloev. I'm going to put Movsar Evloev in the B plus tier as well, okay? I think Evloev's got pretty decent striking. You know, he did piece up Dan Ige. He did give Dan Ige a black eye. He was throwing flying knees and landing them. He was outboxing him. I think he's slightly better than Aljo on the feet. Okay, I won't put him any higher than that, but I think he's okay. Doesn't have a lot of pop. He's not going to wow you with anything. He did get outstruck by Arnold Allen, but, you know, he was in there with Arnold Allen. He even rocked Arnold Allen, and that's pretty impressive. So I got him B plus tier. Adesanya. I'm going to put Adesanya in the B tier, okay? I think that the B tier for Adesanya is pretty good. I think him and Jack Hermansson... I think him and Jack... Like, this is the thing. This is why I laugh. This is why I laugh. It's because I know the way that some people are perceiving this info. Like, some people, they just cannot comprehend how Adesanya could be in the same tier as Carlos Ulberg and Jack Hermansson, but it's pretty easy, honestly. He had a non-fight with Jared Cannonier pretty much. Like, I won't call it a non-fight. He did beat Jared Cannonier fair and square, 49-46, maybe 48-47, but either way, he didn't really show that many levels. I think that in his prime, he was better than Cannonier, right? In his prime, I'd put him B plus tier, okay? I'd put him B plus tier. And I think, well, I don't know, man, because Strlckland's B plus tier. I just think Adesanya, especially right now, I think he gets KO'd by Baraujo, and I think Jack Hermansson gives him a fucking war. I think Jack Hermansson, like, you've never heard that sentence before. I think Jack Hermansson gives this guy a war. But, I mean, he literally gave Joe Piper a war. The fucking Viking Jack Hermansson, dude. You know, Jack Hermansson was the fucking runt of the litter, bro. But Jack Hermansson, bro, freaking pebble punch Hermansson is giving Adesanya a war in 2025. He just is, man. Like, listen, prime Adesanya is a step above Hermansson. Maybe not 2 steps, maybe not 3 steps, but he's a step above, 100%. Adesanya, since now he's on a losing skid, and listen, he's not on a losing skid just because he's out of his prime, but I'll be honest, like, he's not in his peak anymore. He's slightly declined, only slightly, but he's slightly declined. Dude, it's just like, I'm just trying to... yo. I just trying to keep it together, guys. I'm trying to keep it together. Okay. I just got to gather myself. I'm not laughing because Adesanya's striking skills are laughable. I'm laughing because some people are literally ramming their heads into a wall hearing me say that Jack Hermansson would give him a tough fight. Jack Hermansson styled on Chris Curtis. Okay? Jack Hermansson beat Joe Pyfer, who hits like a fucking truck and has improved boxing. Hermansson, back in the day, would be B- tier. If you were to ask me, Jack Hermansson, where would you rate his striking on this tier list 4 years ago, I'd say B-. He's mid. He's maybe slightly better than Vettori. Okay? And he fucking lost to Vettori. That's insane how this guy lost to Vettori. He is improved. Jack Hermansson, at his old age, he's like Carlos Diego Ferreira. He's improved. His boxing is way better these days. Adesanya slightly declined. Jack Hermansson, he has better boxing than Adesanya, whose boxing has always been an issue. Okay? It's always been a problem. Jack Hermansson would outbox Adesanya. He's not getting KO'd against Joe Pyfer. I think he's able to take the power of Adesanya. And you know what? Hermansson is one of these grizzled vets that at this point in his career is not running onto punches. It's not like Blachowicz versus Thiago Santos. Blachowicz freaking blitzes Santos and gets out of character for a second. Right? Hermansson stays in there with a tight guard. When you fight Adesanya with a tight guard, that doesn't mean you're going to win. He can always go to the leg kicks and he can still piece you up a little bit. But when you're a slick boxer with good defense, fundamentals, and a tight guard, you can outbox Adesanya and give him a really tough fight. And I think Hermansson would do that. Would he shut down Adesanya like Strlckland? No. I still think Strickland's a better striker than Jack Hermansson. But I think him and Adesanya would have an ultra competitive fight. It'd be so competitive. Maybe he would win. Okay? So that's at the level I think Adesanya's at. Adesanya versus Strlckland too. I still think Strlckland is the same issue for Adesanya that he was in the first fight. Even if Adesanya goes in there with the best training camp of his life, like, okay, Strickland's still younger. Adesanya's still slightly declined now. You know, he wasn't slightly declined when he fought Strlckland the first time, but let's say he was having an off night. Okay, now he's slightly declined, having an off night in his prime. Okay, they're basically even. Strlckland will still beat Adesanya because of the boxing and because of the defense. He will still beat him slightly. Adesanya is very dangerous if he can counter you. Okay? And I think back in the day at his peak, where he was fighting Alex Pereira, the first fight, the second fight, I would put Adesanya A tier. Okay? Maybe B+ tier. I'd put him B+ tier. Okay? But now, I don't know. I think he's B tier right now. I can't say he's B- tier. Like, it would just be... I feel like the B tier just has a crazy advantage over the B- tier. But then again, Josh Emmett is a featherweight. You know what I mean? Josh Emmett would be problems. Josh Emmett's basically Yoel Romero. But Yoel, if he's at featherweight and he doesn't have the wrestling and quite the same athleticism. But even Yoel had an ability to throw jabs every once in a while. Like, we saw him resort to higher output against Paulo Costa. Yeah, Adesanya slightly declined B tier. Prime, I'll put him B+, but right now he's B tier. Right? I just think a lot of people would get to him. Nasruddin Imavov just knocked him out. Right? Dricus Du Plessis, it was one of those stylistic things where Dricus just has this funky style. Adesanya looked amazing that night. I would have said, yeah, man, Adesanya's B+ tier, but right now I think he's B. Okay, I think a lot of people are beating him to the punch, knocking him out, and having competitive fights with him. But you know what? Look at these guys in the B tier. He's in good company with Davey Grant. Like, dude, casuals will not be able to understand how it's a flex to be next to Davey Grant. Like, it just straight up is. This is not a diss. This is not, like, Adesanya still fucking styles on Paulo Costa to this day. Okay? There's probably some other middleweights that I'll put on this tier list too that he styles on. You know, like, I don't know, Ikram Aleskarov. Like, Ikram Aleskarov is freaking B- tier, bro. I'll say Adesanya beats Ikram. I think it'd be a real competitive fight. I think Ikram would have a KO chance, but, you know, against Andre Muniz. He can get past him. I think Ikram's of that level where he can destroy low-level fighters, but once he fights a cannoneer, once he fights someone that's decent, like when Whittaker's knocking you out and schooling you, Whittaker's at least a couple levels ahead. But yeah, Ikram is B- tier. Okay? Ikram's B- tier. Did we do Joe Pyfer? Here's Joe Pyfer. I'm going to put Joe Pyfer in the B tier right now. I think that if Joe Pyfer knocks out Kelvin Gastelum and, in his next fight after that, beats a decent high-level striker, I'll put him B+ tier. I'm going off of his last fight against Jack Hermansson, or that wasn't his last fight. His last fight was against Marc-Andre Barriou, but Joe Pyfer's just knocked people out too quickly, and they're not at that high level. Since the Jack Hermansson fight, specifically talking about Marc-Andre Barriou, it's like, okay, Marc-Andre Barriou will not prove to me that he's that improved. I bet that Joe Pyfer has improved since the Hermansson fight. Like, he definitely has improved. That was a good learning lesson for him. And despite Jack Hermansson getting the better of him in the last 3 rounds, he still did pretty well in that fight, took 2 rounds off of an improved Hermansson. And again, I know that he's improved, but I just need to see him fight someone that's known as a striker. Like, if he were to fight Adesanya and beat him, okay, I'll put him B+ tier, something like that. Like, if he beats Cannonier next, I'm like, all right, this guy's clearly improved. So he can still improve, but right now I'll put him B tier. But I think he would knock out Adesanya, to be honest. I think he would. But I'll put him in the B tier. Let's see. Sharamagomedov. I'll put Sharamagomedov B tier as well. Like, listen, like Rafael Fiziev, because Rafael Fiziev is a lightweight, right? So I think the same talking points will apply, but this is a middleweight that we're talking about, so it's even worse. Sharamagomedov is like Fiziev. He's very flashy. He's got this look. He's the pirate. He's got one eye. He's got the brother stuff and all that. Like, okay, yeah, that's great. But when it actually gets down to it, like, he's having a decision against Mikhail Oleksiejczuk where he's winning, and Mikhail Oleksiejczuk is pretty okay. But I'd put Mikhail Oleksiejczuk in the B- tier. I think that Oleksiejczuk is solid for light heavyweight. B- tier for a light heavyweight or a middleweight is not a bad look, right? Mikhail Oleksiejczuk still was in there against him, and then he gets styled on by MVP, and I don't know, maybe B+ tier, but I still think guys like Whittaker and Strlckland would kind of expose him a little bit. I'm still not sold on him. I'm not sold on him at all. He's got a good kicking game, but Petrosian's okay, but I wouldn't put him B tier. Petrosian's B- tier, okay? C tier maybe. Like, we're seeing, mid Pedro Munhoz, and it's like, okay, but Petrosian is like a decent striker at middleweight. So you're basically the same level as like the tough out-tip bantamweight. So yeah, I'll put Shara in the B tier. Great kicks. Boxing is okay. Just doesn't have a lot of power. And flashiness doesn't necessarily mean you're the baddest guy, okay? Also, middleweights can only be so high, right? I don't think I'll have a middleweight in the A+ tier or anyone above middleweight in the A+ tier. Let's get on to Ilia Topuria. I'm going to put Ilia Topuria in the S tier, okay? I think that's pretty obvious. Knocking out Max Holloway, knocking out Volk. I know that Volkanovski was outpointing him, but Ilia Topuria was in there and just simply has a more patient style where it's like he's looking to knock you out, and while he's looking to knock you out and he's patient, he's still landing good shots on you. Not many people are that competitive with Volk, okay? Even when, a knockout hasn't occurred. Same thing with Max. Not many people are having a razor-close fight with Max. All right? So that's impressive. Add on to that the fact that he's got such incredible hand speed, combinations, and footwork, and power that he can also knock you out if you're Max Holloway and Volkanovski. You know how hard it is to knock out Volk on a full training camp? Where he's Speedy Gonzalez mode on the feet, and he's floating like a butterfly, stinging like a bee. You know how hard it is to knock out Max Holloway? Bedtime MMA is saying he's worried for Topuria. And, I've heard MMA gurus saying, I don't know if Ilia Topuria's power is going to translate to lightweight. Okay, so I'm hearing people say things like, I don't know if his power is going to translate. I've heard Bedtime say it. I've heard MMA gurus say it. But I'm sorry, man. Max Holloway has the best chin ever. And I know they're going to say, oh, well, yeah, Marvin Vettori, bro. Listen, this guy's power is good enough to knock out Max. And I think you may look at that scrappy fight that he had with Max Holloway, and you may be saying, yeah, but it was pretty competitive with Max, right? But it's Holloway. Some of those shots that Ilia Topuria is landing on Max and their scrappiness in the second round, when they're scrapping in the first and second, some of those shots are knocking out a lot of people. He knocked Volk out in the second. It took till the third to get Max out of there because it's fucking Max. He's got an unbelievable chin, an insane chin. And some people are going to say, yeah, but he weight drained down to 145. Weight drained. I've seen that in comment sections. Like, dude, we're going to act like Holloway hasn't fought at 145 pounds for 99% of his career. You can't even say that. Like, the legendary myth of his chin isn't based off of him fighting at 145 99% of the time. Come on. The point that I'm making is the power is going to translate. Like, okay, maybe it's not 100% guaranteed, but if he's knocking out Holloway, you can't just say, well, it took him till the third round to get, like, it took him till the third round. In most cases, you could see a fighter landing tons of combinations, and then they get the KO in the third round. Okay, clearly they're not Ngannou, who just needs one punch. But when it's against Max Holloway, I think we can't look at it that way, where it's like, he has good power, but he's really got to wear you out a little bit. Like, he only had to do that against Holloway, and he still knocked him out. No one has ever knocked Holloway out. The power is going to translate. When this guy's fighting someone with a normal chin, we see what happens. Look at Volkanovski, okay? When this guy's fighting people, with dense heads, Josh Emmett's got that Anthony Smith chin. You've never seen Anthony Smith get knocked out cold other than in Strikeforce, but for most of his career, he absorbs a really good punch. Even when he gets dropped, he's not totally out, right? Sort of fumbles and tumbles to the ground. That's what happens with Josh Emmett. Emmett has never really been KO'd. I know he got TKO'd by Stevens, but it wasn't out cold or anything like that. Also, Stevens landed a illegal knee on him or whatever. But either way, yeah, it's going to translate. I really think it's going to translate. Like, this guy's knocking out Holloway. We can't forget how impressive that is. If you're knocking out Max, okay, and you're just sleeping Volk with the first solid punch you land on the chin, these lightweights are getting slept. That's my opinion. Now, I do understand the fact that lightweights are, they have longer reaches. They hit harder too, and Topuria has a bully style. There, I understand why it's a tough matchup for him when he goes up and fights Oliveira. But as far as his power translating, I think it's going to translate. I know that there are other factors as well that could lead to Topuria losing. I know it's not if his power translates, he automatically wins. Like, I know he can still get caught. He could still get knocked out. He can get bullied in the clinch or whatever. But the point that I'm making is I think his power translates. And this is power that we've never seen before, mixed with skill that we've never seen before. Like, how many lighter fighters have we seen with Topuria's dynamite? Not even Gene Silva has that. Gene Silva, crazy power in his hands, wicked speed, explosive. Not even Gene Silva's knocking people out like Topuria. I don't think Gene Silva's knocking out Max Holloway. Okay? Mix that with the fucking footwork, with the combos, the hand speed, with the grappling skill. We're not talking about grappling. We're talking about striking alone. Ilia's S tier, man. He's S tier. So let's get on to the next one, Jamal Hill. I am going to put Jamal Hill in. I'm going to put him in the B- tier. Maybe the B tier. I don't know, man. I'll put him B- tier. I think he's decent. Nah, I'll put him B tier. I mean, you can't have him in the same tier as freaking Josh Emmett, bro. All right. I do think Josh Emmett would be able to knock down Mateus Gamrot a few times. You know what I mean? But I'll put Jamal Hill in the B tier. I think he's very low B tier, though. He waddles around like a duck. He's extremely flat-footed. He's got an okay clinch striking game. He's got okay boxing. But, I just think it's the case that he was overrated back in the day. based on his striking performance against Glover, but gets knocked out against Pereira. That's not why he's B tier, but then he gets beat by Yuri, and he didn't look that great in the Yuri fight. I'll say he's B tier, though. I mean, the way he beat up Glover was very impressive. I still think that he has a good chance to beat Khalil Roundtree. I'll put him B tier. He's got okay striking. But, yeah, I think that's his peak right now, is B. Let's get on to Merab. I'll say Merab is B- tier. Merab can defend himself, right? He can throw output. He can defend himself. He's not a sitting duck. He's not easy to finish, but like we know, he relies heavily on his pace and grappling. And that's why he can hang in there with Umar on the feet a little bit. It's just because he's just spamming takedowns and whatnot. So I'll put him B- tier. Let's see. MVP. I'm going to put MVP in the B tier. I think MVP. I think he would probably be able to outstrike Jamal Hill. Sharon Magomedov, brother, is just a different level, brother. No. We're putting MVP S tier. Maybe we'll only have 10 fighters in the S tier, which will be like the top 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, I say MVP is definitely S tier. He's up there. I think that he might be able to outstrike JDM. That would be a really interesting matchup. Because we saw that JDM didn't have, his classic just marauder run through you with his... No, he's not a marauder, but run through you with boxing performance against Kevin Holland. He's gotten better since then, but MVP is just another level. We saw what MVP did to Kevin Holland. I think that this is S tier. S tier level striker right there. No one outstrikes him. I don't think anyone outstrikes him. I think he would beat Robert Whittaker. I think he would beat Sean Strickland. I think he beats Ian Garry. Oh, we literally saw him outstrike Ian Garry. So, yeah, I don't think I got to really argue that one. So fast, right? Got that karate blitz style. Charles Oliveira. Where are we going to put Oliveira? I'll put Oliveira in the B+ tier. I think that Oliveira has declined a little bit with his striking. Now, I might have had him in the A tier if you were to ask me in 2022, 2023. I still think Oliveira is very dangerous. Okay? Nah, I'll put him A tier. Man, though. But I think he's slowed down a bit. I think he's slowed down a little bit. We did see him get outstruck by Arman. He got pieced up with the jab. Arman landed good combos, good kicks. Oliveira just didn't really do anything on the feet. He did send Justin Gaethje flying across the octagon, which is why I think he deserves to be in that tier as well. But I think he's a little bit slower. I don't see the same Oliveira. Okay, he pieced up Michael Chandler, but dude, Michael Chandler's just not a good striker at all. He's like Josh Emmett. He relies on a big gnarly overhand. And he's just looking slower these days, Oliveira. And he just has that thing that just shuts his striking down. He just freezes up against these brothers. And there's so many brothers in the lightweight division that, it's just going to happen quite often. When Oliveira fights Arman, when he fights Makhachev, he does freeze up a little bit. And he doesn't fight as aggressively as he normally does. And when he does fight super aggressively, because we've seen him striking look pretty good against Poirier, right? He still doesn't get the better of Poirier. Like, he was in there with Poirier doing really well in the clinch, landing some good shots on the feet, but Poirier was still comfortably ahead on the feet. He dropped Oliveira. He was winning the striking exchanges. Ultimately, Oliveira needed to go to the ground, but showed a decent, tough version of himself. Against Gaethje, gets dropped a couple of times, drops Gaethje, finishes it on the ground. I don't know. I think maybe high B tier. I think Oliveira's got wicked leg kicks, but here's the thing. I am going to say high B tier. I think that Oliveira has declined a little bit on the feet. I think he's like Corey Sandhagen. And I'll explain this a little bit better, but you see Sandhagen's in the A tier. I think Sandhagen's striking used to be better. I think he used to be more dynamic. Same thing with Oliveira. I think Oliveira against Kevin Lee, he looked a lot faster. I think his striking looked a lot more dynamic, a lot faster against even Gaethje. Remember, jumping flying knees and checking all the kicks. It looks a little slower these days as he's gotten a little bit older. The grappling is still good for him. The power is still good for him, but I'm going to put him B+ tier. I don't know, though. I don't know. Maybe I'll put him very low A tier. I'll put him very low A tier. Okay? Let's get on to Gene Silva. Gene Silva, I'm going to put A tier. A plus tier. Fuck it. I'm putting him A plus tier. I think Gene Silva's the real deal on the feet. I know it was just Bryce Mitchell, but listen, Bryce Mitchell was landing knee stomps and side kicks and whatnot, but let's be honest. A lot of that success that we saw from Mitchell was because Gene Silva was kind of toying with him. Now, I'm not saying that Gene Silva was just literally not trying. I'm saying Gene Silva was being patient to wait for the right moments and was comfortable to get hit to where he wasn't like super switched on, worried about what's coming back in his direction. Like he was sort of stalking down Bryce Mitchell and just waiting for the right shot to present itself. But still, I mean, ultimately he pieces up Bryce Mitchell. I think he would beat up Lerone Murphy. I honestly think he might knock out Volk. I think if these guys are to fight right now, maybe Volk could maybe beat him. But I think that if Volk beats Movsar and you see Gene Silva fight a 38-year-old Volk, Volk is getting slept. Okay? But I still haven't seen it yet. But either way, I'm putting him A plus tier. I think he's amazing on the feet. He's got that sniper style. He's sort of like, a bit like Conor. Insofar as McGregor was a bit more of a combination guy, but still, Gene Silva's got the spinning attacks and he's got amazing counter striking, great defense. He's a wild man, but he's got really good defense, great distance management, wicked power in his hands. So yeah, I'm going to put him A plus tier. Gene Silva is legit. Michael Chandler, I'm going to put Michael Chandler in the C tier. He's just... First off, now I think Chandler's older than ever. He's only effective when he throws caution to the wayside and goes berserk, goes caveman mode. If he doesn't do that, he's literally just a sitting duck. Okay? Like, he needs to fight super aggressive like Paulo Costa and put himself in harm's way and just try to win off pure grit and toughness. And when he actually is patient and tries to pick his shots, he just doesn't have it. So I'll put him in the C tier. He's definitely higher than Nico Price, though. Umar Nurmagomedov, man. I'm putting Umar in the B minus tier. No. I'll put Umar in the A plus tier. I think Umar's A plus. Okay? Yes, man. Merab was able to win rounds off of him where a lot of it was on the feet, but Merab's just still not that good on the feet. It's Merab's toughness. It's Merab's grit. You can, if you're a B minus striker, hang in there with an A plus tier striker as long as you're Merab and you have, a freakish third lung where you never slow down with your footwork, with your forward movement. Umar was slowing down and he was getting tired, but he did comfortably outstrike Sandhagen. I think he would get outstruck by Yan. I think he would get outstruck by O'Malley. Outside of those two guys, I think Umar would outstrike most people in this division. I think he would outstrike Figueiredo. I think he would outstrike Sandhagen, which he literally did. So yeah, I think Umar's A plus tier. He is bottom of the A plus tier. He's still green. Like Jack Della Maddalena is very comfortable on the feet. Umar's still a little bit wide-eyed on the feet, still a little bit twitchy on the feet, right? But I think that when this guy hits his prime, and I know I'm basing some of this off of potential, but I think you're going to see Umar Nurmagomedov really level up some more. And I'm kind of putting him A plus tier because of what I'm expecting in the future as well. But yeah, fast hands, dynamic kicks. He lost to Merab, but it was a razor close fight. And again, it's Merab, dude. Merab's not even amazing anywhere. He's got good wrestling. Great wrestling, I'll say. Great wrestling. Mid-level striking, but it's the physicality of Merab that gets him to win some of these matchups. That's why Merab is so much lower and can still kind of hang in there. Let's get on to Randy Brown. I'm going to put Randy Brown in the B plus tier. I think Randy Brown's very underrated. I think that if you were to ask me back in the day, I'd put Randy Brown in the pitter pat tier. I'd put him B minus. But now, dude, knocking out cardio king Nicholas Dalby, just destroying Brian Battle and winning 9 out of his last 10 fights. That's amazing. I think he's B tier, B plus. Randy Brown is in his prime right now. He's at his peak. He's B plus tier. I wouldn't put him higher than that. But yeah, let's get on to Johnny Walker. I'm going to put Johnny Walker in the D tier. I think that Walker is honestly a terrible striker. I think that you look at his schooling of Anthony Smith and you may say, man, Walker's legit. Man, he's so talented, but it's Anthony Smith. When Walker doesn't land his blitzkrieg flying knee or his hammer fist against Paul Craig or back fists when Paul Craig is on when he's on a single leg, when he doesn't land that, he gets destroyed every single time. Corey Anderson fucking schooled him. Jamal Hill knocks him out. He's going to get knocked out against Azamat. Like, Johnny Walker, he is a athleticism farmer, okay? He's just simply there in the UFC because of his athleticism, but his skill on the feet, when it comes down to a kickboxing battle, it's just leg kicks at range, and that's it. Like, he has non-existent boxing. He doesn't have a jab. It's flying knees and spinning back fists and leg kicks. And, I'm sorry, he's D tier. I'm going to put him higher than freaking Nico Price, though. Nico Price is lower than Johnny Walker. Let's get on to Sean Brady, man. I'm putting Sean Brady in the B tier. I think Sean Brady has some real improved striking. But let's be honest, him outstriking Gilbert Burns has to do with Gilbert Burns being a little bit older, even though it did look improved. He did pretty well against Leon Edwards, but obviously the takedown, that came, and that opened up success in the later rounds. I think he's B tier. Decent boxing. Kicking game doesn't really exist, but he's got, improved grit and toughness. Decent hand speed, but nothing crazy. Mauricio Ruffy. I'm going to put Mauricio Ruffy in the A tier, man. I'm putting Mauricio Ruffy in the A tier. I'm still not 100% sold on him. I think that Gene Silva is more proven. I've seen Gene Silva in a 3-round war. Not really war, but a 3-round fight with Drew Dober. It was a bit of a scrap. Gene Silva proved more to me there. He showed a more well-rounded striking game. His defense is very good. His cardio can hold up. His power holds up. Mauricio Ruffy knocking out Bobby Green with a spinning wheel kick and Bobby Green having no chin. I'm not saying that the kick doesn't knock Green out if he has a chin, but what I'm saying is Bobby Green at this point in his career, Green used to be a great striker. At this point in his career, Bobby Green is maybe a top 10 chinniest fighter in the UFC. We expected him to knock out Bobby Green easily, okay? The kick was impressive, but the knockout was going to happen at any point. The fight that he had with James Yontop was good. It was impressive. I think he would have knocked a lot of guys out with those same shots. James Yontop is like the opposite of Bobby Green. He's like 99% chin. That's why he's in the UFC. Even though, to be honest, he's okay. He's got decent stand-up or whatever, but you get my point. He's just super tough. I think Mauricio Ruffy still needs to show me that he can hang in there with decent strikers because they've just been feeding him average Joes, and they've also been feeding him chinny Bobby Green. So, yeah. But he's A tier nonetheless. He's a sniper. If he gets past a good striker, I'll put him A+ tier. But right now I have him A tier. Very slick. Amazing counter left hand. But yeah, I need to see him beat someone that's actually really good right now. I'm not 100% sold that he is like, top 15 strikers on earth. Here's a guy that I am sold on when it comes to striking. Yair Rodriguez. I'll put him A+ tier. I'm just more sold on Yair. Some people are going to be like, bro, Yair's not better than Mauricio Ruffy, bro. It's like, dude, Yair has been in the UFC forever. He has actually showed us his level against highest levels of competition. And yes, he got beat up by Volk, but a lot of that was because of the grappling. Let's not act like he wasn't really successful on the feet against Volk. Even the third round where he gets caught, he gets knocked out. He was still doing really good work against Volk, and not many people can actually outland Volk in a tit-for-tat battle. Same thing against Holloway. Yair Rodriguez was going tit-for-tat with Max Holloway. And when he fights people like Josh Emmett, he rolls them up into a Bazooka Joe joint and smokes them. All right? So Yair Rodriguez has freaking proven his level. And he's dropping Ortega all over the deck like a fish. I don't want to see him fight for the title next. I still think Volk beats him, but you cannot deny he's incredibly talented and good on the feet. Like, he's just a monster of a striker. When you mix in a takedown, it all falls apart. But the point that I'm making is not many people are going to be able to beat Yair in a stand-up battle. The only people that could are in the S tier. That's Volk and that's Max. and Yair gave them everything they could handle. Remember, Holloway took down Yair and beat him up on the ground in multiple instances. Okay? That's part of what won him the fight. The stand-up, even though Max was maybe a hair ahead, it was only by a hair. So, Yair's A+ tier. Perfect example of proven versus unproven. He's even more proven than Gene Silva, but yeah. I think him and Gene Silva would be a war. That's the fight to make, not freaking... It's Evloev versus Volk, Gene Silva versus Yair, or Yair versus Diego Lopez. Those are the fights to make. Let's get on to Nathaniel Wood. I'm going to put Nathaniel Wood B+ tier. I think he's very good. But every now and then he has fights where he doesn't look that good and he fumbles, finishes all the time, right? And he doesn't have the best chin. He can get dropped. So I'm going to put him B+ tier. I think that prime Nathaniel Wood is good enough to be B+. Kind of feels crazy to have Yuri in the B+ tier, but Yuri just freaking makes it work. He's like Dricus. Dricus is the odd man out in the A tier. Yuri is the freaking odd man out in the B tier. All right, you got to respect it, man. Got to respect it. Marcus McGee, bro. I'm putting Marcus McGee in the A tier. I think Marcus McGee has A tier level striking. I think that he's very underrated. Okay? I think that Marcus McGee is the real deal when it comes to his boxing. I mean, he kind of styled on Jonathan Martinez, even better than Aldo did. He's got wicked hand speed. The problem is Marcus McGee is a couple of years away from the retirement home. He's an old man. He's like 38, right? He's getting up there in age, so I don't know how much longer he can keep this up. But this is prime Marcus McGee we're talking about. Marcus McGee is in his peak right now. He's at his prime. Okay? He's in his prime. He's at his peak, son. So I got him in the A tier. Let's get on to, who else? Mike Malott, man. Mike Malott is going in the B+ tier. Mike Malott has proven himself again. I got him in the B+ tier. I think after that performance against Charles Radke, listen, I know he had a shit fight with, what was it, Trevin Giles or whatever, but like, dude, that was because he had to get his confidence back. But now that he has his confidence back, he's not just barely scraping by. He styled on Radke the same way Prates did. I still think Prates is a slightly better striker, but Mike Malott fucking bulldozed and actually had an easier fight against Radke. Not really, it was similar, but Mike Malott's B+ tier. Wicked speed, good kicks, good boxing combinations. He's improving as we speak. So yeah, I got him B+ tier. Anthony Hernandez, I'll put Anthony Hernandez in the B- tier. He's got pretty mid striking, pretty average. He's just a tough man on the feet. He's one of those guys where he's unlike Benoit where he's knocking people out, but he is tough enough to just sort of land those shots on the feet and move forward a little bit. Sort of like a Merab. I'll put him B- tier. Very mid-level striking, but against high levels of competition, like he can handle himself. He can defend himself in a fight, okay? And he can actually push the action on the feet a little bit. That's what B- tier can mean sometimes. Whereas Benoit can definitely knock people's lights out, but in a good old-fashioned battle against a decent striker, he might just get chinned every time. So let's get on to Khamzat Chimaev. I'm going to put Khamzat in the B tier. Went toe-to-toe with prime Gilbert Burns. Pretty impressive. Slightly outstruck him. Got kind of outstruck against Usman a little bit, but, it was razor close, whatever. Knocked out Gerald Meerschaert. I'm not putting him any higher than B. He's barely in B tier, but he's in B tier nonetheless because he's got decent striking. He's got a really good jab. He's got a lot of power. We know that he's capable of throwing high output, so I'll put him B, but no higher. Roman Kopylov. I'm going to put Roman Kopylov in the B+ tier. I think he's a very solid striker, right? Will I say he's A tier? No, I'm not going to say he's A tier, but this guy's a problem. He's a real problem, and people were clowning me after the Cesar Almeida fight, even though he still won because he had to pull out the takedowns and he got tired and he got choked out by Hernandez. But listen, getting choked out by Hernandez, it's like Whittaker getting choked out by Khamzat. It says nothing about his striking. Roman Kopylov will go out there and have a better performance than Sean Strickland did against Paulo Costa. He is at that level. Very different style to Whittaker, very different style to Strickland, but he is at that level, I believe. He's at the I can beat Chris Curtis and TKO him level, even though it's a gritty scrap. Let's get on to should we do Aspinall? I kind of don't even want to do the heavyweights just because I'm just going to piss people off with my takes on the heavyweights. Like, people expect Tom Aspinall to be, oh, Aspinall's A+ tier. It's like, dude, he's knocking out Curtis Blades and he's knocking out people like fucking Sergey Pavlovich. I know they're dangerous, but heavyweight's just a different sport, dude. Like, heavyweight and talking about how skilled people are and all that, like, we have to have that in a separate video. Aspinall's good. He's good. Okay? I'll put him A tier. But, like, I'm sorry, man. Whittaker's just better than him. Okay? Magomed has proven that he can outstrike someone like Pereira. Aspinall has never beat someone that's close to the level of Alex Pereira on the feet. Now, does that mean he couldn't? No, it doesn't mean he couldn't. He could knock out Magomed Ankalaev. And this is the thing that frickin', confuses me. I say things like Magomed could be a tough fight for Aspinall. And people are like, that's crazy. Are we forgetting that just a few months ago we were saying that if Magomed can't take down Pereira, he's screwed on the feet? We were looking at Alex Pereira making fools out of Yuri Prochazka, Jamal Hill, destroying people, looking unbelievable. And we were saying there's no chance Magomed outstrikes him and beats him on the feet. And he did. And again, we talked about Magomed. There's not anything other than his boxing that's that good, but his boxing, even though it doesn't stand out that much, it's not flashy like Volk or Yan or Topuria. But it's just, he's so hard to hit. And he's just so fast. And he's got a really good counter-striking game. And Tom Aspinall, blitzkrieging through plotty man Blades, just tumbling and bumbling forward with his eyes glazed over because he just woke out from a nap. Like, dude, Sergey Pavlovich, who is basically a freaking meathead. Sergey Pavlovich, you watch Sergey Pavlovich train, and it's like he's just doing pull-ups at the PI, bro. Nah, I'm kidding, but listen, Sergey Pavlovich, he's got slick hand speed, man, but as soon as he's in a fight, he's literally just slugging. The skill level's different. And I know Aspinall makes fights look easy, and I know he's not Ngannou. I know that. We're not talking about grappling. We're just talking striking. Sometimes just because you knock people out doesn't mean your striking is next level. Yes, he's more technical than Ngannou, and he's faster. Yes, I get it. He's better than Ngannou. But, the reason why people think it's a joke for me to say that he would have a tough fight with Magomed and Magomed would be his toughest test right now is because Magomed doesn't get finishes and Aspinall knocks people out. We were literally saying the same shit about Alex Pereira. In fact, not only was it the case that Pereira knocks people out and Magomed can't finish a fly, Pereira was schooling people with output. Pereira was outstriking people like Yan, Adesanya. He was outstriking Yuri Prochazka, barely getting hit. So it's not only that Magomed can't get any finishes and Alex Pereira can, plus Pereira's got amazing kickboxing in a tit-for-tat battle. You know what I mean? And he still outstrikes him. So the point that I'm making is, I don't think it's as simple as, well, he finished Curtis Blades easily, therefore he finishes Magomed easily. Like, dude, Magomed's not going to be there. Magomed actually has footwork. Magomed actually has distance management. I know Aspinall's fast as fuck. I know that. But let's not buy into the, he moves like a flyweight too much thing. Like, he does not move like a flyweight. Tom Aspinall, I would say he moves like a welterweight. He's very fast. Extremely fast. But are we just going to act like Magomed Ankalaev didn't just speed mog Alex Pereira? Like, Magomed Ankalaev is fast as fuck. I don't think there's a single fighter that has looked faster than Magomed in the cage. I'm trying to think of one. I know Aspinall might be slightly faster, but the point that I'm making is Magomed is a championship level fighter that outstruck Alex Pereira, the finisher and amazing kickboxer in a tit-for-tat battle. It's not a crazy take to say that it could be a competitive fight because we're assuming that Aspinall finishes Magomed Ankalaev in 30 seconds. What if Magomed keeps his distance and gets into the fight a little bit? And Aspinall, for the first time in his career, is forced to stand up and figure out a puzzle, because it's not always the case. This is the thing about the heavyweight division. That's why I say it's like a different sport. Because the guys at heavyweight, when you have someone like Aspinall that's truly good, he will make people like Curtis Blaydes, who is your typical heavyweight, look like shit. That's the thing. Even Gane, who's slick. Like, Aspinall will probably beat Gane, but Gane is better than Blaydes. Gane is better than Pavlovich on the feet, right? And I know Aspinall pieced up Volkov, but Volkov has improved since then. I know that was only like 3 years ago, but Volkov has actually improved a lot. He'd probably destroy Volkov again, but this ain't a fucking heavyweight striker. Magomed Ankalaev beat the former best middleweight striker, Alex Pereira. So, yeah. But that's why I'm saying, like, I don't know if Aspinall's A tier, man. I am more impressed with Magomed Ankalaev outstriking Alex Pereira, even if it was, kind of a lackluster fight. I'm more impressed with him rocking him and beating Pereira with output on the feet than I am with Aspinall knocking out Curtis Blaydes. That being said, again, this is just striking results and whatnot, so I'm going to keep Aspinall in the A tier. Okay, I'm going to keep him in the A tier. Because even though I am more impressed with Magomed beating Alex Pereira, Aspinall's still a more impressive fighter. Okay? So again, when I say more impressed, I'm talking about striking skill and whatnot. But at the end of the day, it's not 100% just technique. A lot of it is results-based. But results-based also or basing this off of the results also has to do with the level of competition. And that's kind of the thing that I'm talking about. Magomed outstriking one of the greatest strikers in MMA history is just a lot more of an accomplishment than Aspinall knocking out Plotty Blaydes and Oaf Sergey Pavlovich, who is dangerous, very dangerous, but still. But nonetheless, I don't mean to say that Magomed's a more impressive fighter. Aspinall is the most impressive heavyweight of all time, and I still think he would have a good chance to beat Magomed. I think he might beat him, and I still kind of think that Aspinall is the best fighter in history, and I mean, like, I just mean it like that. Like, I think he is maybe the best combat athlete ever. So, yeah. Of course, even if you're heavyweight and you're like Ngannou, like, Aspinall is very skilled on the ground, very fast on the feet. So he is more impressive than Magomed, but I don't know if I'd put him in a higher tier. I think that people still really underrate Magomed. And people might say that I'm glazing him or whatever. Listen, I'm friends with Magomed Ankalaev. I train with Magomed Ankalaev. I take my bias out of this. I don't think Magomed's style is that entertaining. I would rather Alex Pereira be champ. I've told him that. I said, brother, that's why they kicked me out. I went to the after party. They kicked me out of the after party, and then they let me back in, but they kicked me out for like 5 minutes because of that. Alex Pereira is more entertaining. I like him better as champ, but you just can't deny, like, we saw it take place. We saw the outstriking happen, okay? Like, we're not in the world before Pereira and Magomed. We're post that fight. We've seen it with our own eyes. It occurred. It happened. We need to get over it. All right? Magomed is A tier. And if he knocks Pereira out again and then fucking beats Aspinall, he's fucking A+ tier. And we're just going to have to deal with the fact that someone that is somewhat of a boring fighter on the feet can be as high as he's going to be on this list if he does that. Now, this is the thing. When I say somewhat boring, I'm just comparing him to the S tier fighters. Even though, to be honest, MVP has a style that can be boring at times, right? I would say Magomed and MVP have similar levels of entertainment factor sometimes. Magomed is underratedly entertaining, but let's not get ahead of ourselves and be like, okay, well, just because he beats Pereira and is better than Pereira means he's more entertaining. Like, he's not the most entertaining fight style. Let's just say that. But he's not boring. I wouldn't say he's boring, but he doesn't have banger fights, and that's, pretty obvious. Let's continue. But Aspinall, I do got to say he's A tier, because if we do look at some of these former heavyweights that had good striking, that, we looked at Stipe Miocic, and he actually set himself apart from the other heavyweights and had that solid boxing game, fundamentals, right? And was able to challenge Daniel Cormier, Lighterman Skill Cormier, over the course of a long fight. Stipe wasn't creating the same gap against these other guys. Aspinall is not only knocking these guys out because of his power, but just because of how much of a joke their skills are compared to his too. And also speed is a factor. But hey, we talk about speed. That's like why MVP is in the S tier. It's because of how fast he is. So speed is a big part of your skill set. Okay? Some people say it's an attribute. It is an attribute, but hey, that's like massive for striking. We have no slow strikers up here. Makhachev might be the slower striker in the A+ tier and the S tier or whatever, but he's just got really solid fundamentals. And he's very slick. He has perfect technique with a lot of what he does. Paddy Pimblett. I'm going to put Pimblett in the B+, B- tier. Listen, man, I know that he was able to get the better of Michael Chandler, but a lot of that was just because, again, patient Michael Chandler is awful on the feet. And also, he did beat up Michael Chandler, and that takes a lot out of you on the feet as well. Kind of breaks you mentally a bit. But right now, I'll say Paddy Pimblett's B- tier. I'm not ready to say that he's higher than that. Yeah, if we see him go out there fight Justin Gaethje, even though I don't want to see that fight, and he hangs in there with Gaethje on the feet, I'll definitely bump him higher, 100%. But right now, I got him B- tier, okay? Yeah, I don't know. I don't like seeing Hill higher than him, though. I don't like seeing Hill higher than him. I think that Mateusz Gamrot and Paddy Pimblett are similar level on the feet. Let's just say that. But again, just because he schooled Michael Chandler doesn't mean that it was just the striking, okay? The grappling was most of it. Jailton Almeida, I don't even know why Jailton Almeida is on this list. I'm not even going to fucking rank him, okay? He has one knockout. What does that mean? Let's get on to the next one. Alexander Volkov, I'll put Volkov in the B+ tier, or the B tier. I think he's, at that Davey Grant. I know Davey Grant's a better striker than him. Davey Grant would probably win a fight if they were the same size with his skill set and speed or whatever, but Volkov, don't look at this as disrespect. He is a heavyweight. So, listen, I know that he can style on some people. Like, he can knock out Jairzinho Rozenstruik, but... And Jairzinho Rozenstruik's one of the ranked heavyweights. And he beats a ranked guy and styles on him. That means he's legit. Like, listen, the heavyweight division is so shallow that there are massive drop-offs in skill. Okay, so when he's not fighting Aspinall, he is one of the better heavyweight strikers, and so that's why he's B tier. But the other decent heavyweight strikers like Jairzinho are just not even that good, okay? I would put Gane in the same tier, honestly. I'd put Gane in the B tier too. I think that Gane looks amazing against some of these fat heavyweights because they're fat heavyweights. I think, we look at Adesanya. If Adesanya was fighting people that moved like, Sergey Spivak, he would have the same type of performances, man. So, yeah, I'm putting Volkov in the B tier. Good striker, great striker, but heavyweight nonetheless. I think Aspinall still would just annihilate him, but that's Aspinall. But Aspinall is maybe the only heavyweight ever to be in the A tier. I don't think there's ever been a heavyweight in MMA history that'd be A tier or higher. Aspinall's the only one. And that's largely based on the results, okay? But let's get on to Shamil the Blob Gaziev. I'm putting Shamil in the fucking C tier. I'm putting Shamil in the C tier, bro. I'm putting Shamil in the C tier. You know what? I think Shamil Gaziev is a better striker than Asual Mabayev. No, I'm kidding, guys. Asual Mabayev's probably better than most of these C tier guys, okay? But I got Shamil Gaziev in the D tier. Listen, I'm sorry, but if you make Aston Bashi heavyweight, give him the same skill set, it's a war, okay? Same thing with Michael Chiesa. And listen, Shamil Gaziev is D tier, bro. He's laying people out. I do think Johnny Walker would knock him out. But I think Shamil Gaziev's underrated, dude. I think he's pretty underrated. Where would I put? I'd probably put Rozenstruik in the C tier. I'd probably C tier for heavyweights, very good. So I'll put Shamil in the D tier. I think that that's being charitable to Shamil. I think that Shamil on his best night, if he doesn't get shinned by Johnny Walker, which he would, that's why I feel like this is a weird one, because Johnny Walker would annihilate him. But am I ready to put him in the same tier as, yeah. I mean, let's be honest. Michael Chiesa and his skill set at heavyweight probably gets him a few KOs, right? Most likely. I'll put Shamil in the F tier. Shit, dude. Shamil Ghazi in the F tier, bro. But hey, he's a heavyweight. He's a heavyweight. If this is the heavyweight striking list, he'd be higher. But he's heavyweight, bro. Gane. Yeah, man. I think Gane is in the B tier. I think Gane's a really good striker. But I think Carlos Ulberg would have similar results. I think you put Carlos Ulberg in there with Spivak and he knocks him out easily. Okay? I'd say Gane is B tier. Same as Volkov. Even though Volkov beat him, let's not forget Gane beat him in the first fight. They're pretty similar level. Both very good for heavyweights. That's about as good as heavyweights can be. Unless you're an outlier like Aspinall. Okay? Let's see. Peyton Talbot. Where are we going to put Peyton Talbot? I'm going to put Peyton Talbot in the B+ tier. Okay, he got sunned by Barcelos, but a lot of that was because of the grappling. A lot of that was because Barcelos took him down and just kind of didn't allow Peyton Talbot to get going. And even when Peyton Talbot would get up to his feet, he was more focused on trying to look cool and trying to punk Barcelos rather than like, okay, let me take a more patient approach and stuff takedowns. It may not look as flashy, but let me just, focus on the takedown defense and stand my ground a little bit. Maybe you could say, well, he was trying to fight like the threat of the takedown wasn't there. Maybe that's better for your stand-up as a striker. But nonetheless, I don't think you could have him much lower. I think if you look at someone like Cameron Simon, light on the feet, right, moves around pretty well. I think Cameron Simon's maybe B tier, and you may laugh at that. Oh, he gets knocked out easily. But come on, dude. Cameron Simon is better than fucking Pedro Munhoz. But then again, maybe Pedro Munhoz would knock out Cameron Simon. So I don't know. But I think Peyton Talbot's very good on the feet. Again, Barcelos taking him down doesn't prove that he's not good on the feet. However, I wouldn't put him any higher than B tier or B+ tier. But I do trust that Peyton Talbot, based on his power, based on his output, his timing is amazing too. I just think he's very dangerous, and I think he will get a lot of KOs. And again, he's not even close to his prime. So I think he's B+ tier right now. Maybe B tier. Let's see. Are there any bantamweights in the B tier? No, there aren't. I don't know. I'll put him B tier right now. I think B+ tier might be a little bit high. And Nathaniel Wood, former bantamweight. I feel like Nathaniel Wood could give him a good run for his money, right? So, yeah, I'll put Talbot in the high B tier at the moment. Although, let's be honest, if he were to fight someone like Adesanya, Cannonier, and he's the same size as them, he probably knocks them out. But right now, I'll put him B tier. I just need to see him get past someone that's decent on the feet. Dan Hooker, I'll put Dan Hooker in the B+ tier. I think Dan Hooker's got some decent striking. I think that's his peak. Maybe he slowed down a little bit over the years, but right now I'll say B+. Okay? Henry Cejudo. I'm going to put Henry Cejudo in the B+ tier as well. Oh, man. I don't know. Yeah, I'm going to put him in the B+ tier. I think he's slightly better than Aljo. Even though he got outstruck by Aljo, I just still think Cejudo is a slightly better striker, and that's based on the Song Yadong performance. He looked really good against Song Yadong. I was saying before that fight, Cejudo has an angry man's right hand, and he has... Well, that's it, actually. I said he only has an angry man's right hand. And people act like he's got this great karate style striking, man. But against Song Yadong, he actually looked really slick in that fight, mostly with his jab. And that's not really been a weapon that Cejudo's used that much throughout the years. So, honestly, Cejudo looked even better there. So I think that I'd put him in the B+ tier. I think he's pretty okay on the feet. I think that was an amazing performance that he had against Song Yadong despite losing. Derek Lewis. I'm going to put Derek Lewis in the D tier. I think Derek Lewis, again, heavyweight, ridiculous power, totally relies on it. He's basically like Johnny Walker. I think they're similar level. Johnny Walker moves up to the heavyweight division. I think he would do a lot better than against the light heavyweights, so keep in mind he's facing better levels of competition. Like if Derek Lewis was facing Azamat Murzakanov, he'd probably get destroyed. But you can't put Derek Lewis F tier, okay? Although I kind of could see it, though. I kind of could see it. Like, Derek Lewis is one of those guys where he really literally only has a right hand. But he's kind of like Josh Emmett, right? He's like the heavyweight Josh Emmett. He has one thing going for him, and that's it. and that's a right hand, nothing else. And so, Josh Emmett is B- tier because he's a featherweight. So you put Derek Lewis D tier because he's a heavyweight, okay? The equivalent to F tier for Derek Lewis would be like freaking D tier for, or it'd be C tier for Josh Emmett. But yeah. Roman Dolidze. I'm going to put Roman Dolidze in the C tier, and I am going to put Marvin Vettori in the same tier. Where the heck is Marvin Vettori? Oh yeah, here's Marvin Vettori. I'll put Marvin Vettori in the C tier. I think Marvin Vettori's striking is just really average. I think it's incredibly average. I don't know, man. He did get outstruck by Dolidze, even though he won the first fight. It was razor close. He did outstrike Paulo Costa, but then again, you look at these guys in the D tier, they're slightly better. Marvin Vettori would piece up Derek Lewis. He wouldn't get knocked out. He'd piece him up. You might have a good chance to beat Johnny Walker, too, just based on his chin alone and toughness. And he would definitely destroy Nico Price. But then, again, competitive fight against Rayner, probably. I'll put Vettori in the C tier. Again, I know it's a little weird to see Asul Mabayev next to Vettori. Asul Mabayev would literally have... If Asul Mabayev was the same weight as Vettori, he would have a Max Holloway, Calvin Kattar type of performance. But, it is what it is, man. It is what it is. Okay, we have to kind of judge them based on their division a little bit. Even though that does kind of crack me up. Let's get on to Belal Muhammad. I'm going to put Belal Muhammad in the B+ tier, okay? He did... Nah. I'll put him in the B tier. I think Belal Muhammad's B tier. I think he's got solid striking. He's got good enough striking to have a close fight with Jack Della Maddalena. Man, you know what? That's actually really impressive. I don't know. I know he just lost, but... he arguably won 2 rounds off of JDM, and none of that was because of the takedown, right? Like, maybe he got 1 or 2 takedowns. He couldn't hold down JDM. He only won a round because of the striking, and taking a round off of JDM because of the striking is kind of impressive. And it's not like JDM, right, had like a Holloway, Ortega, Kattar performance, although he was comfortably ahead on the feet and clearly the better striker. I feel like Belal is a better striker than Adesanya and Cannonier. I'm going to put him B+ tier. I know that's weird to have him there with Hooker and Henry Cejudo, but then again, it's like having an ugly style has never gotten in the way of being placed highly, right? Strlckland doesn't really have a pretty striking style, and neither does Dricus Du Plessis, yet they're pretty high. Belal Muhammad is effective. Okay, Canelo hands. Maybe they weren't like Canelo, but you know what? His boxing is improved, and I think he's on a similar level to Leon. I know that Leon Edwards still was able to do good work and maybe is slightly better, but I can't say Leon's leagues ahead of Belal on the feet. I just can't. Okay? I can't say that. But then again, it's kind of weird to see Belal in the same tier as some of these other guys. But, I mean, let's think about it. He got the better of Luque, but a lot of that was with the takedowns. I don't know. I'm going to put him high B tier. Belal is no lower than B. He is high B tier, okay? He's high B tier. I think that the wrestling has something to do with it, but either way, his striking is a little bit underrated. He was in there with JDM on the feet. That's pretty impressive, man. That is pretty impressive. Let's get on to Azamat Murzakanov. I'll put Murzakanov in the B tier as well. Murzakanov is a freak of nature. He's a density maxer. You don't know how he's able to move around that fast. So I'm going to put him there. Man. It still feels weird to have Belal in this tier. Like, I think Belal could beat Sharamagomedov if he just fucking pushes forward and gets in his face and makes it a fight. So I don't know. I'll keep him in the B tier for now. Let's see. Who else we got? Pantoja. I'll put Pantoja in the B tier. I think he's heavily reliant on power. I think he's got decent kicks. I think his striking is improving a little bit. But again, he can win a round against Moreno on the feet because he drops him and then gets, some takedowns or whatever. But when he's in there with Royval, when he's in there against Moreno, he does really need those takedowns to win. So I'll put him B tier. Nate Diaz, man. I'm going to put Nate Diaz in the you're going to need to kill this guy in order to win tier. Yeah, I'm going to put Diaz in the A tier. All jokes aside, I got Diaz in the A tier. Similar to Tom Aspinall, Diaz is in a bit of a different sport because Tom Aspinall, it's like, okay, he's against heavyweights. He's got ridiculous power. We don't really get to see his skills, but you got to give him the benefit of the doubt, judge him based on being a heavyweight. Diaz is one of those guys, you got to judge him based on how would he do in a fight with no time limits on a basketball court in a street fight condition where the conditions are Joe Rogan rules, no bars hold on a basketball court, right? Because when Nate Diaz shows up to an MMA fight, he's too cool for school, okay? And he doesn't really try. And he looks at the fans and emotes to cope with the fact that he's losing. But when you really piss him off, then he's mad, bro. Then he's mad, right? And then it's only a matter of time, man. It's only a matter of time. So, yeah, it's like a different sport. I think in a no time limit basketball, Joe Rogan rules. I think that Nate Diaz is A tier. But in reality, I think I'm going to put Nate Diaz in the B- tier right now. Right now. I think that Paddy Pimblett would honestly give Nate Diaz a run for his money. Okay? I think that'd be a competitive fight. On the feet only. No takedowns. It would actually be super competitive. But yeah, prime Nate Diaz. I will say this. Prime Nate Diaz. I will say that he was probably B+ tier. Okay? Very good in his prime. Again, you might say, well, dude, he freaking pieced up McGregor. McGregor was like A+ tier, S tier. Okay, yeah, but Merab was in there with Umar. A lot of that was based on Diaz just being super tough. Okay? Joe Rogan rules, he's A tier. In reality, right now, I mean, again, I said I wasn't going to talk about a lot of washed-up fighters, but Nate Diaz is a big name. I thought I'd bring him up in the video. I'll put him B- tier. Joshua Van. I'll put Joshua Van in the B+ tier right now. Okay, he's got great striking, amazing striking. The problem is he does have pillow hands, and he has no power, and that is part of striking. Joshua Van has all the skill. He has all the cardio, all the output, all the technique with the confidence, imposing his will, but he has none of the physical attributes. He's very small. He has a short reach. He has no power, and he has pillow hands. So, like, he's kind of held back quite a bit. Like, he needs to get bigger for the weight class. You know, Joshua Van should just move up. Okay? This is what Joshua Van should do. Joshua Van should move up a weight class, but stay in flyweight. You know what I mean? So, like, he's going to have the lighter man skill still, but just pack on 5 more pounds and you're still in the flyweight division. Okay? The weight cut will be a little harder. But I'll put him B+ tier. It is a problem that he doesn't have a lot of power because even though his volume is crazy and he is getting better, he's not in his prime. So I think Joshua Van has potential to be like A+ tier in the future because he will just get better and maybe he'll develop more power. Like Holloway developed power as his career went on a bit. But again, Holloway was like 5'11" for his division and not small, right? Either way, because he doesn't have any power, people that are just, you know, tough and good enough to be top 15 will be able to just take a shot to land one of their own on him. And I think I could see him getting knocked out a few times like he already has been. So, yeah, I got him in the B+ tier right now. Very good striker, but there's some things that hold him back. It's like Roman Kopylov. The thing that holds him back is the gas tank, right? Roman Kopylov is like the B+ tier Fiziev, right? Like Fiziev is amazing in the first round. Same with Roman Kopylov, but Roman Kopylov and Fiziev gas out. Kopylov's a middleweight, so he'll be a little bit lower on the tier list. Let's get on to... We didn't even do Alex Pereira yet, okay? Let's do Imavov. Let's do Nasruddin Imavov. I'm going to put Imavov in the B+ tier right now. Not going to do a long explanation. He knocked out Adesanya, was able to get the better of Cannonier, even though it was a competitive fight, and it was an early stoppage. He looked a little bit better on the feet. I think Imavov's striking is pretty good, but he is not going to get higher than the B+ tier, I don't think. Kamaru. I'll put Kamaru Usman in the B tier. I think he's underrated. I do think Bilal is high B tier. There should be a Bilal Muhammad tier between B+ and B. But I think Usman is sort of like Aljo. His striking gets slept on because it's like, okay, he got outstruck by Leon Edwards or whatever. But then again, he did outstrike Prime Gilbert Burns. And Prime Gilbert Burns has, B-tier striking. I don't think anyone would disagree with prime Gilbert Burns being a B-tier level striker, okay? And he pieced him up with the jab and knocked him out. He got dropped too, but he ended up finishing Gilbert Burns on the feet. There was like no grappling in that fight because it canceled out. And then against Colby, Colby gave him tough rounds and whatnot, but ultimately Usman proved to be the better striker in both fights, even though Colby was winning the first fight 3-1. Eventually, Kamaru finished him, okay? And in the second fight, Kamaru Usman won the decision. And then you look at his fight with Khamzat, like he is able to piece up Khamzat a little bit with the jab. I think Kamaru Usman's striking is pretty decent. I think it gets shit on all the time. Maybe I'll put him B- tier. But I don't know. Would you say that prime Gilbert Burns is B- tier as well? Would you say that, nah, man, I think Kamaru's a little bit more formidable than an Anthony Hernandez. So I'm going to put him in the frickin' B tier, okay? I'm going to put him in the B tier. I think his striking is okay. I think that a lot of these strikers in the B tier are overrated. Like Adesanya, I think he's overrated. I think Kamaru would give him some issues with the jab. Like Shara, I think he's a little bit overrated, man. Okay? Let's get on to Colby. I'll put Colby in the C tier right now. Maybe prime Usman's in the B tier, current Colby's in the C tier. How about that? Prime Usman was B tier, current Usman's probably B-. Current Usman. And, current Colby's in the C tier. I think Colby in his prime was definitely better than Vettori, 100%. Okay, but right now, without the same toughness, without the same desire to be a champion, because back in the day when Colby really wanted to be a champion, when he was taking his career serious, when he fought Usman the first time, he was definitely B- tier. Had decent kicks, good output, got the better of Tyron Woodley, even though Woodley was getting older. But right now, I'll put him C tier. Okay, who else? Song Yadong. I'm going to put Song Yadong in the B+ tier, okay? I got him in a tier above Cejudo. Oh, he's in the same tier as Cejudo, is he? Yeah, you know what? I don't think Song Yadong proved that he was that far ahead of Cejudo. I think he definitely was winning, but it was still close. I think they're pretty similar on the feet, but still, I'll say Song Yadong is high B+ tier. Maybe low A tier. Maybe I'll put him low A tier given that he's a bantamweight. Okay, I'll give him the benefit of the bantamweight doubt. All right? I'm starting to lose my voice. This has been such a long video. Bryce Mitchell. I'll put Bryce Mitchell in the C tier. You may say, no, man, no, he's in the D tier. But, listen, Bryce Mitchell can defend himself in a fight. Okay? I think, listen, he's not Merab, who can hang in there with great strikers. Mitchell can't hang in there with great strikers. But against okay strikers or decent strikers, he could at least defend himself and not get KO'd every time. Okay? Every now and then you're going to have an Emmett that can knock him out, right? But he didn't get knocked out against Ige, right? Again, we're still talking MMA. I know that in the striking-only battle, Ige knocks him out, but it's still MMA, and, he did drop Barbosi, and he does have those crafty sidekicks. So I'm going to put him C tier. I mean, let's not act like Roman Dolidze is so much better. Like, dude, Bryce Mitchell, you know how you see, like, some of these grapplers, like Sean Brady, have a big step-up performance against Gilbert Burns? But you kind of know, okay, it's two grapplers. He's not going to do that to a striker. Like, if Mitchell was a middleweight, he would be having similar performances against some of these oafs like Vettori. Okay? I could see Mitchell as a middleweight hanging in there with Vettori. You can't tell me Vittori's much better. Okay? So, yeah, I'll put Mitchell C tier. Even though he's, like, very low C tier. And it's kind of cringy to see Asuma Bayev next to Bryce Mitchell because, Asuma Bayev's a flyweight. And even though he's known for his grappling and he had nothing against Manel Kape, like, he's still better than Bryce Mitchell on the feet, I'd imagine. But, yeah. I don't know, man. But then again, you got RDA, Michael Chandler. Man, this is tough. I don't know. I'll put Mitchell maybe D tier. Because even though he's okay and he can defend himself on the feet, he's better than Nico Price. He's better than the Dodo Bird. He's better than the Dodo Bird, man. Let's get on to Manel Kape. I'm going to put Manel Kape in the A tier, okay? I'll put him in the A tier. I think he's below Moreno because he hasn't proven that he's above him. I need to see him prove it. If he can outstrike Royval, I think he's A+ tier. Okay? But we need to see what happens with him versus Royval. So right now I have both of them in the same tier. He can style on people. Sometimes he looks mediocre. He hasn't looked amazing every single fight. But then again, I think now he's fully hit his prime. So we'll see how he does. Okay? If it's a razor close fight, they stay in the same tier. If one of them pulls ahead, we'll put him in a higher tier. Let's get on to Chris Curtis. I'm going to put Chris Curtis in the B tier. Okay? I think Chris Curtis is pretty formidable on the feet. All right, I think he's a step behind Roman Kopylov and Strlckland. All right. Who else we got? Oh, Max Griffin, bro. I'm going to put Max Griffin in the C tier. Just extremely mid-striking. About as mid as it could possibly get. Paulo Costa in his prime. You know, he was higher than C. But yeah, Max Griffin, I'll put him in the C tier. Alex Pereira. I'm going to put Alex Pereira in the A tier. Okay? Now listen. If you were to ask me before the Magomed fight, I'm saying Alex Pereira's A+ or S. But Magomed shows that actually, even though Alex Pereira was making people like Yuri look like fools, a part of that had to do with the fact that they were light heavyweights. Okay? So, yeah. Listen, I don't think it's disrespectful. I think that Pereira, you know, listen, maybe this is a bit of recency bias, but he did lose to Magomed, and I can't put him higher than Magomed right now. I think that it's the case where Magomed may not have as flashy finishes and the same, you know, entertaining performances, but he's still just going to beat everyone on the feet. So, yeah. But then again, it's kind of weird seeing him in the same tier as Dricus, isn't it? And maybe the threat at the takedown played part of that. Yeah, Magomed did shoot like 11 takedowns, right? That's definitely part of it. And Pereira, it's not like he got blown out of the water. I'm going to say I'm thinking that Pereira isn't at his peak anymore. I'm not saying that's why he lost. I'm saying as of now, I think Pereira has lost his lighter man skill. He is fully morphed into light heavyweight speed. And even though he still destroys most light heavyweights, like Yuri, okay? Who are we fooling, man? I'm putting Yuri in the fucking B tier, bro. Get out of there. I'm putting Yuri in the B tier. Sorry. Okay? Yuri could KO a lot of people. He's in the fucking B tier. He's a light heavyweight. What am I doing? Okay? Yeah, man. I'm going to put Pereira in the A tier. Let's just pretend Dricus Du Plessis isn't there. Listen, Dricus pieced up Strlckland. He pieced him up. He's improved. Dricus from a few years ago, no. But Alex from a few years ago would be higher too. Right now, I got Alex in the A tier. I don't think it's crazy to say that JDM is better than him right now. JDM's a fucking welterweight. Pereira's a freaking light heavyweight. All right? I don't think it's crazy to say Yair's a better striker. I don't think it's crazy to say Gary's a better striker. I know that Pereira would beat Garry because he's 2 weight classes above him right now, but, you know, are you really going to sit here and tell me that he's that much better than fucking Poirier? And maybe, I mean, here's the thing. I don't want to put Magomed A+. I feel like these other guys are better. These are light heavyweights, okay? They're light heavyweights. They're going to be in this tier. You cannot be higher than A tier if you are a light heavyweight or above. I'm sorry. Unless you were on Alex Pereira's streak before he lost to Magomed. Before he lost to Magomed, Alex was A+ tier. Okay? Now he's A tier. Okay? And maybe that should be Magomed A+ tier, but I'm not ready to do that. So I'll put them both A tier. High A tier. Oliveira, I'm sorry, he's not the same level as Pereira. I don't know. Now I'm fucking second guessing everything. You know what? No. This is light heavyweight skill, okay? This is light heavyweight skill. All right. Who else? Who else we got? I feel like we've pretty much gotten to every single fighter. There's Jan Blachowicz. Current Jan Blachowicz, I'm going to put B tier. Yeah, current Jan Blachowicz B tier. I'd put prime Jan Blachowicz in the A tier, though. Okay? Prime Jan Blachowicz would have been A tier. Current Jan Blachowicz is B tier, so don't get mad at me. Paul Craig. I'm going to put Paul Craig in the fucking D tier, dude. I think Paul Craig would fuck up Shamil Gaziev if they were the same weight class, though. I'm gonna be honest. I think Paul Craig would fuck these guys up if you were in the same weight class. No. I think Paul Craig's F tier. I'm sorry, dude. He's got nothing on the feet. Who else we got? Brendan Allen. I'm going to put Brendan Allen in the B tier. I think he's B tier as well. Okay? I think he's B tier. I think Brendan Allen's underrated on the feet. Nah, fuck that. I'm putting Bilal in B+. He's not the same tier as Brendan Allen. And I know it's weird seeing him in the same tier with Kopylov. This is what I'm going to say. If Bilal fought Roman Kopylov and he doesn't get finished in the first round, he probably wins a 5-rounder, and he could do a lot of that on the feet. He probably would use his wrestling. I don't know, man. Brendan Allen's pretty good. I think he's underrated. I think Allen's underrated, guys. I'll put Bilal back in the B. I'll put Allen low B tier. We need a B minus tier. Okay? Let's see. Michael Morales. I'm going to put Michael Morales in the freaking B+ tier right now, okay? He hasn't proven anything against the best in the world. He's knocked out an old man, Gilbert Burns. He's knocked out old man, Neil Magny. Let's see him get past a good striker, but right now I'll put him B+. I'll respect the welterweight skill. Let's see. We got Rinya Nakamura. I'm going to put Rinya Nakamura in the fucking F tier. Rinya Nakamura, bro. I think Nico Price would outstrike Rinya. I think that Rinya wouldn't know what to do with Nico Price. Nah, we're putting Derek Lewis in the F tier. I'm sorry, dude. I'm sorry. I got to put the most knockouts of all time in the F tier. Derek Lewis is a terrible striker. Like, he just is, bro. He just is. Okay? Derek Lewis is not a good striker. He has one weapon. He's like Johnny Walker. If Johnny Walker fought heavyweights his whole career, you'd have 14 flying knee KOs, dude. You would have 14 flying knee KOs. Okay? Who else we got? Shit, bro. This tier list is fucking long, man. Brackatoni. I'm putting Brackatoni in the fucking D tier, man. He's not very good. I think Mitchell would have his showcase performance against Brad Katona. I think Mitchell would have a tough, man, gritty scrap with Katona. I think he'd maybe win. Fuck, man. I'm putting Mitchell in the D tier. I'm sorry. I do think that even though I think he's as good as Vettori, yo, dude. Yo, I'm sorry, guys. That's like the funniest shit ever. That might be the funniest shit ever, dude. Mitchell, if Mitchell was in the same weight class, I'm sorry. If Vettori was in the same weight class as Mitchell, and he had the same shit, I think Vettori might be D tier, dude. I think Vettori might be D tier. I'm sorry, guys. It all makes sense now. It all makes sense. I'm moving Max Griffin down too. Okay? Listen. Yo, I actually think I might die of laughter. Okay, guys, wait. Okay. Okay. If Vettori moved out to bantamweight and he had no chin, he would never even make it to the UFC. Okay? That's what I'm saying. We can't have Vettori higher than Mitchell. We have to understand, it's the chin. It's like Merab. Why can Merab hang in there with Umar? Because he's tough. I can't have Mitchell lower than Vettori because we need to remember Vettori is C tier because of his chin. Even frickin' Roman Dolidze is more skilled than him. Basharat Bros. I'm putting the Basharat Bros in the frickin' C tier, dude. I'm putting the Basharat Bros in the C tier. Where's the other Basharat Bro? Yeah, I'll put him C tier. I think they're basically like Pedro Munhoz. I think if they fought Pedro Munhoz, I honestly think they would all cease to exist. I think that the universe wouldn't know what to do with all these guys having the exact same level of striking. The exact same level as mid striking. Basharat Bros will put him C tier. Listen, they may be more skilled than Vettori. They may be more skilled than Dolidze, just as Munhoz is more skilled than Vettori, but it's like, dude, they're just not beating anyone on the feet. And they're only barely scraping by the lowest levels of competition. All right. Andre Munhoz, I'm going to put Andre Munhoz in the B- tier. I think he's kind of underrated. I think Munhoz would beat Roman Dolidze on the feet. I honestly think he'd outstrike him. I'll put him C tier. He's kind of underrated. Bo Nickel, I'm going to put Bo Nickel in the F tier. I'm sorry, man. Like, listen, Nico Price, you could say, whoa, Bo Nickel knocked out Val Woodburn. Like, dude, Val Woodburn is not in the UFC anymore. Like, Nico Price, look at his fucking highlight reel outside of the UFC. Nico Price is like Yuri Prohaska outside of the UFC. Nico Price has highlighted people in the UFC. Okay? Bo Nickel has not proven. I do think he's better than Shamil Ghazi, if I'm going to be honest. But, I don't know. I'm going to put him in the F tier right now. I know he's better than, but is he better than Derek Lewis? I think he's in the same tier. Listen, he's a freaking middleweight. You got to judge heavyweights a little bit differently. I'm going to put him in the fucking F tier. He's literally only got his grappling, and when it comes down to striking, oh, where's Paul Craig? Wait. Oh, no. He's barely ahead of Paul Craig. Maybe he's D tier. Where'd I put Rainer? Yeah, I'll put Bo Nickel D tier, like very low D tier. He just has, Rainer de Ritter is a tier above him. I think that's fair. Bo Nickel did outstrike Paul Craig. I think, with his power, I think he's a little bit more capable than Rinya. Like, Rinya Nakamoto doesn't have a single moment in the UFC. I think he might have a KO in his debut, kind of like Bo, but, Anyway, guys, that's it. I hope you enjoyed the video. Until next time.